And if for those who don't want to speak, again, welcome to come up front, make it easier. That was kind of the original plan, so Diane didn't get her steps in tonight, but she's been running around all afternoon, so.
My name is Becky Flippy. I live at 404 South 4th Street. I am speaking in opposition. I appreciate the changes that have been made. I appreciate that you've been listening to some of the concerns. But again, I feel like this development changes the life for so many people in Mount Horeb. The people who live in that historical neighborhood, who chose that kind of life, the people who shop in Mount Horeb, the people who have current businesses in Mount Horeb, the people who come to Mount Horeb for our small town, unique kind of business, and I don't know, just the nature of what our downtown is. I have huge concerns about the traffic. The current traffic in that area is bad. When we have any kind of event, or even on the weekends, it's a challenge already. Bringing in that many more people, bringing in the construction, the things that would have to happen to make this development in that space, I think would bring some big issues and would change our life. There are a lot of people who have expressed concerns. We have 730 people who sent back the mailers, 948 people who expressed opposition through that process, 1,853 people who signed a petition. That's a substantial amount of people. There have been people who have come to multiple meetings to express their concerns, and I just hope that we would be heard. Thank you. Who signed the petition. That's a substantial amount of people. There have been people who have come to multiple meetings.
Ellen Myers, and then Joy Martinson.
My name is Ellen Myers, and I live on 203 North 2nd Street. Anyway, over 200 people came to the public hearing regarding a zoning change request for the proposed apartment building on Main Street. Most of the public comments were against this plan. The turnout was impressive. People are really concerned about this issue. The Plan Commission and Village Board should listen to their constituents, not the developer. Many of us are opposed to this project. We're concerned about traffic congestion, safety, parking, and compatibility with other buildings downtown. People are worried about their kids getting hit by a car while riding their bikes or skateboards, or even while just trying to cross Main Street. There is currently too much traffic downtown. It is already very hard to turn left onto Main Street, so people take the alley to the traffic light on North 2nd Street. If this plan is approved, there would be too much traffic for an alley. The alley would become a busy street with people turning left into the alley from the parking garage and then making a difficult left onto North 2nd Street. This would cause a bottleneck on North 2nd Street between the alley and the traffic light as people wait to turn left onto Main Street. It would become a nightmare, especially during rush hours when people are going to and from work and school. This is a glaringly weak spot in these plans. Parking is also a big problem. There's currently a shortage of parking downtown. The South 1st Street apartment building, already approved, will replace a large and much-needed parking lot. And the Main Street apartment plans don't provide nearly enough parking for its residents and commercial businesses. If the Main Street plans are approved, I'm afraid the additional cars will clog up the residential streets nearby, including North 2nd and North 3rd Streets. If the Main Street plans are approved, parking is even more limited due to alternate side parking. JG's latest proposal doesn't resolve these traffic and parking problems. Main Street is the wrong place for an apartment building. The village needs to address the traffic congestion, safety, and parking problems that we already have downtown. More people and more cars would exacerbate these problems. If Mount Horeb continues to grow, it should not be done downtown, but on the east side of town where there is easy access to 18151, less traffic, and more green space. To conclude, this entire project should be thrown out. We should keep the beautiful historic houses that are already there.
Thank you, Ellen.
Okay.
So I'm going to have Nick, because I can't see the timer. Nick's going to politely ask, we just let you know when the time's up and stuff. Also, please, again, limit the disruptions. Joy Martinson. So I'm going to have Nick, because I can't see the timer. Nick's going to, that'll be Lorna Perkins after that. Also, please, again, limit the disruptions. Joy Martinson. That'll be Lorna Perkins after that.
Joy Martinson, 125 Jennifer Circle, Mount Horeb. Truth in advertising. When I saw the scale model of this project displayed at the Plan Commission meeting last month, I was stunned. Even with 20 years of construction work under my belt, I had no idea of the monstrosity of the proposal. At 4 stories, now 3 tall, and with a footprint that reaches to the lot line in all directions, it overpowers the area in every way imaginable. My gut reaction? Everyone needs to see this. With help and advice from a handful of friends, I created the bulk mailer, which most of you have received. It was sent to every address in the 5357 zip code. Some were undeliverable, a few extras were made available. To say 5,000 were distributed would be a very close estimate. As of this afternoon, the number of postcards returned totaled 741. The number of respondents, some postcards contain multiple names, totaled 958. Even though the option was not provided, an additional 5 postcards were returned with notations stating support of the JG proposal. To recap, 5,000 postcards were distributed with a 19% response rate. 99.5% of those responding were opposed to the JG proposal. The developer, again, truth in advertising, the developer has provided beautiful renditions of the building from every side and every angle, being most careful, it seems, to not include the surrounding structures. If a private citizen can figure out how to come up with a scale model which includes the surrounding structures, so can the developer. I suggest the Plan Commission require the developer to include the surrounding structures in their renditions. If JG's goal truly is to revitalize and enhance our historic business district, and if JG truly believes revitalizing and enhancing will be the result, then own it, show it, be prideful of it. Plan Commission members, village board members, and every resident of Mount Horeb should have easy access to true renditions of this proposal, which include the surrounding structures as viewed from every direction. Truth in advertising, we must insist on it. Which includes the surrounding structures.
Lorna Perkins.
I'm Laura Brookins. I live at 102 Elm Street in Mount Horeb. I am reading this. I am in opposition to this too, even in spite of what I heard tonight, I'm still opposed. But I'm reading this for a friend who just had surgery and cannot come. She wrote this. Her name is Maggie Steele. She lives on County Road F in Barneville, but is in Mount Horeb much of the time. At the October 22nd hearing, the village president advocated for development which advances aesthetic and economic objectives of the community. That should mean that both factors would have equal weight, which is appropriate because they are inherently entwined. Mr. Grundle's development in size, shape, and style is an architectural anachronism, aesthetically incongruent with the surrounding downtown's historic style and charm. It is telling that virtually every homeowner in the homes north of the Longhouse are opposed to it, whereas others, the Plan Commissions and those advocating it, live elsewhere. In addition, parking is a concern. Working renter couples and roommates of 2, 3, or more sharing 2-bedroom units will have on-site space to park 1.23 cars, which is an unrealistic number for a primarily commuter village with no mass transit options. Another major concern will be the impact of the construction, which by filling almost the entire lot and every side provides limited workspace and staging areas for heavy equipment, constant trucking, and semis offloading building materials. In the current economic downturn, how can the constant noise, dirt, congestion, and mess not negatively impact local downtown businesses and homeowners? Similar big box apartment buildings from Verona to Sun Prairie seem to primarily fill their ground floor with chain hair salons, Starbucks, pizza places, and gyms, which by virtue of their economy of scale can undermine the existing local businesses which provide the same strong services, local businesses with their strong community ties, which they currently provide these services. So this will mean an economic loss for our community services. The Plan Commission's bending of existing building code rules to shoehorn a size 12 footprint building onto a size 6 footprint lot will be a classic Cinderella fail in terms of the community's tourist economy, historical downtown charm, traffic safety, and especially community trust. The fracture of that trust will be the Commission's and Mr. Grundle's lasting Mount Horeb legacy. All of this could be avoided by honoring the existing guidelines, choosing smarter development on a larger parcel of land, not in the historic downtown. There, Mr. Grundle could build his 4-story longhouse with parking, his tenants require green space for pets, children, and tenants to enjoy, and all without destroying Mount Horeb's charm and the loss of community trust.
Jeff Francis, Lancaster Clary.
My name is Jeff Mathis. I live at 302 South Clark Street in Mount Horeb. I want to say, first of all, thank you for the hearing process. I think it's really important to have a vibrant community that listens. I also appreciate the changes communicated tonight. I think compromise is a really important part of development, and finding solutions that work for the whole community is really an important part of the role of the Planning Commission as well as development. I've been through the planning process in other communities I've developed in California and in Walworth County, Wisconsin, and I can tell you that sometimes it means, as a developer, you have to give up a lot to get to where you want to be. I think some of the steps that you've introduced this evening are very positive, that you've heard concerns, and I think that you need to continue to listen to the community. I think for the Planning Commission to understand what does it mean to have specifically previously zoned areas in downtown and having a clear understanding about what that really means, and the implications for pedestrian and automobile traffic. What happens 15 years from now when, in fact, it's not even viable to have simply 2-lane traffic downtown and all the downtown parking goes away and all those other potential issues happen that have happened in so many communities around here. So I think it's really important to take a breath, pause, think about exactly what it is that we want our downtown to be, for the Planning Commission to have a clear view that's not just the moment, and not 5 years out, but 10 or 15 years. How do we grow? What do we do intelligently? There's a couple small issues in terms of the development project. I think apartments often mean pets. Pets meaning we have to have a place for them to go outside and walk. And I think the consideration of green space is something that would benefit the project overall. Apartment goers love to have pets, and I think that's a need that needs to be met in some way, shape, or form other than on the sidewalks of downtown Mount Horeb. Thank you.
Christian Clary. Christian Clary.
I'm Kristen Clary. I live at 313 Gulfview Drive in Mount Horeb. I've been a resident for 47 years. And I think this open meeting so that we can get our feelings out about this big, beautiful building that's wanting to be built. I just want people to realize and don't lose the fact that even though we lost one floor on this development, it's just a distraction for the fact that it still does not meet the planning development or mixed-use zoning requirements The reason was tabled last month and still should be rejected for the following reasons. It still does not meet 15% green space requirements by the planning zone. It doesn't meet parking requirements. It still has it's still not all first floor commercial, which is a town mixed use zone requirement. It's excess of 8 accessory unit apartments, requirement by over 600%. I also want to mention that the Village of Mount Horeb has not had a DOT engineer come out and do any surveys on any of the traffic or any of that type of stuff. The only people that we have replied on, we have gotten any information is from JD's engineer. I do really feel that this is not right. We do need to have something like this done. And I also feel that this should be a referendum. I don't think that this development should be put downtown. Traffic is bad downtown. And, you know, at the safety committee the other night that I was part of, it was brought up about a DOT engineer coming in and not having had the opportunity to, the village hasn't had the opportunity to hire somebody to do another survey. So that's all I have to say.
Tim Scott? Going to be Davina Penny after that.
So that's all I have to say.
Tim Scott?
Good evening, friends. My name is Tim Scott. I'm a retired engineer, and I live at 110 North 3rd Street. So, when does a village become a city? A village becomes a city when it allows large apartment complexes to dominate its downtown business district. And that is the predicament we are currently faced with tonight. The proposed JG complex is a structure that will dominate our quaint Main Street business district, all at 3 stories tall, and with 44 apartment units and 54 bedrooms. It's still too big. I have a great deal of admiration for many of the JG projects that have been built in and around our community. The Main Street facade shown on tonight's 4th revision is very much improved, and a 4th retail space that should have been included in the first place has been added back. Still, the most contentious issues that have drawn overwhelming opposition to the current JG proposal are its very large size and scale, which will require several unprecedented exemptions to current zoning requirements, such as adequate parking for tenants, retail employees and customers, and the required open space. However, there remain many other significant issues that have yet to be discussed. These are traffic and neighborhood disruptions that will occur during infrastructure modifications and project construction. From the engineering drawings submitted for this project, portions of Main Street, North 3rd Street, and the adjacent alley will need to be torn up for modifications to sewer, stormwater, electric, water, and gas services. How will this all be managed and at whose expense? It's my understanding that JG has now asked for TIF financing on this project to cover some of these significant costs. It's also my understanding that TIF money necessarily diverts money that would otherwise be available for our schools. So why would a successful developer who is part owner of at least 5 companies and who has such high regard for his community require public financing? What then could be done instead to save the village a lot of money and benefit the community and its visitors the most? How about Grundle Park on Main? There are still many reasonable compromises that need to be made to make the JG project acceptable to the community. In particular, reduce the size and scale to 2 stories. This will not only preserve the character of our beautiful village, but it will resolve many of the controversial zoning exemptions that we are now debating. I believe that tonight, this latest revision of the JG project should be denied by the Plan Commission. Please stand and raise your hand if you agree with me.
Thank you, Tim.
Davina Penny? And then we'll have Steve Penny too. Davina Penny? And then we'll have Steve Penny.
All right, so I'm Davina Penny, 210 South First, sorry, thought there'd be a lectern. I oppose the proposed development mainly because it is still overdeveloped for the area and the space. The impact on alley traffic as well as traffic in the downtown area. We don't even know how the Steve Brown apartments will impact that. I watched the Hoff Mall tenants studio, two parks, and they're parking on the street. I guess one of my main concerns is that we know that pedestrian safety in the downtown area has declined. Traffic and parking congestion have increased. That is a fact. I don't know why it keeps coming up like it's denied. But we do need a proper plan to address the parking, the traffic, and the pedestrian safety. And I'm coming here because I know of two situations where it took kids getting hit by cars before four-way stops were put in place. Those locations are South 2nd and Garfield Street, as well as Perimeter and Lincoln Street. Kids going to somebody going to the library was hit after school. This is why we really need to think about this before we begin adding more and more to the downtown space. I haven't heard a lot of discussion about how this development, and I'm expanding the development beyond JD, but how the places the demands on police, EMS, and fire, our utilities, and our road maintenance. I used to volunteer as an EMT. I can tell you that the rate of calls increased, and I've been off for 10 years. So now I hear it going, the sirens going quite a bit. Residents who live and directly experience changes in traffic density, parking, and safety have expressed concerns. As residents and citizens, we pay taxes. We take pride in this community, and we have spoken up because we care about the quality of life, preservation of our local history, and being heard by those chosen to represent us. Please hear the people and oppose this project. As a secondary, I was told I could make this comment. Please consider street grade max height for the development on the southern part versus on the incline to keep the skyline kind of varied versus the maximum height.
Okay, Steve?
I'm Steve Penny, live at 210 South First Street, and I'm going to actually reduce my comments here because a lot of them have been shared, but I am in opposition to this project in the location that is currently being proposed. I just think it's adding too much to the downtown area that diminishes our neighborhood and our quality of life. I, again, walk around town quite a bit, do a lot of talking with neighbors, and I've yet to find someone who's in a nearby neighborhood that isn't impacted by this who is in support of the project. So, talking with neighbors, and I do want to thank you guys for all the work you've done, and please keep listening to us. Thanks.
All right, Brad Murphy, then after that, Holly Thompson.
Hi, I'm Brad Murphy, 712 South First Street. Some of you know I've been involved with economic development in Mount Horeb for almost 8 years, and involved in helping to bring to town, to build a Grand Stay Hotel, to develop a downtown TIF project. All of these, I think, in the long term, have helped Mount Horeb and continue to help Mount Horeb. All of these adjustments that have been made by the developer are just pretty amazing, based on the feedback that they've received from the Plan Commission and from the public. I want to highlight some of those changes, and my wife's a former school teacher, and she told me I should use visuals to get this across. So it's hard to do in this setting, but here's my visuals. It's a box. And so it's hard to do in this setting, but here's my visuals. It's a box. The first issue that they've addressed is it's too big. And in summary, they have removed the 4-story, removed 19 units, and adjusted setbacks and created balconies to address that question. Check. Doesn't fit the Mount Horeb Norwegian culture, character, history. The Longhouse on Main incorporates numerous Scandinavian themes and images that I've heard some of you, even in opposition to the project, say are great. Check. Insufficient parking. 55 indoor stalls now exceed the number of bedrooms, and they do meet village standards. And this even includes adding bicycle parking. Check. Traffic congestion. The proposal is for one-way traffic pattern from 3rd Street to 2nd Street where there is a light on Main. Check. More commercial space. There's now back to almost the full first floor in the front, over 9,000 square feet. Check. Doesn't match the downtown building design and colors. That's been dramatically upgraded and changed streetscape. Check. Demolish the historic buildings downtown would be horrible, and I understand that the old Olson Flower Shop building is now being relocated and will be utilized as a residential building. Check. And finally, doesn't meet downtown building code standards in 2022.
Thanks, Brad. I'm gonna have to stop you individuals.
No problem.
Hallie Thompson, and then Ian Towle.
Many years ago, my husband and I were looking for a town in which to live and raise our family. We were delighted to find Mount Horeb with its many shops and businesses, proximity to Madison, and a top-notch school. And a large part of the charm of this town is the downtown area. With a variety of stores, restaurants, and other businesses, it's a great town downtown for us here, as well as when we bring our family here. They take pictures of the Trollway, they comment on how wonderful it is to have a vibrant downtown area. I'm very concerned about the impact of the location of this complex in the downtown area. From what I understand by reading the zoning documents online, the size does not conform to village zoning. I have concerns about the streets surrounding this location, not being suited to the large influx of traffic this would bring, and it's going to result in even more safety issues there. I'm befuddled because there are so many other places in this village within Mount Horeb that are just simply better suited for a building of this size. And a specific concern is the future of the current businesses that we enjoy today in the downtown area with the challenging traffic. I know we have been reassured that the 1.2 ratio is sufficient. I don't believe that. I believe that tenants will have no choice but to park on side streets, including Main Street, which will again then impact the current businesses that have been there for years. Any project of this scope should absolutely be required to conform to current zoning restrictions in terms of size and mixture of business apartment designations. The commercial space you referenced earlier is not only desired, it is required by current zoning requirements. I respectfully ask that the village board consider the interests of the citizens of this village, recommend putting this to referendum, let all the people in Mount Horeb decide versus catering to one developer who obviously has a vested interest with a monetary gain to be realized from a project of this size. Because most importantly, the company here will soon be off to the next town and the next project, but the residents will still be here and we have to live with this. For our village board, I encourage you to consider the impact to tourism, impact to our current businesses before you agree to support this.
How's it going, everyone? My name is Ian Towell. I'm 35 years old. Moved here 5 years ago. I live at 306 Oak Street. My wife and I started our family out here in Mount Horeb. We now have 3 kids. You probably see us ripping around on the scooters, one wheels, and what have you. I'm concerned about my family. Since we moved here, when we initially were here in 2020, there were still kids on the north side of Main Street, but there's been a significant increase in kids and families. Not to mention, I don't think I've ever really heard anyone mention that this is like the main thoroughfare to get to the city pool too. So, anyways, I'm obviously in opposition, and I encourage Mr. Brundle to maybe knock on the doors of some of the neighbors in the community. Sounds like you talked to the telephone company. That's great. You know, I don't know of anybody in my neighborhood that's had you come to their door. So, a couple other notes here. I know this is a legacy project for you, so you're obviously emotional about it. So hopefully you can understand our emotions. Let me see here. I know this is a legacy project for you. A couple notes from some things I saw tonight. 3rd Street, I drive a big truck, I'm a tradesman. 3rd Street's already narrow enough. As some other people have mentioned, taking a left-hand turn, you can always tell who lives downtown Mount Horeb because people will actually let you go because traffic's just so consistent. We're a one-stoplight town. So, you know, not to beat the dead horse on the traffic, but like unfortunately it's already tight there. I noticed you have a trash receptacle garage door that comes directly out onto 3rd Street. To me, that doesn't make sense because just again, being a bottleneck, you know, big trash truck comes there at 8 o'clock in the morning. You know, everyone's gonna be trying to get to work, so. I appreciate, you know, some of the changes you made. It definitely looks a lot better than a big wall. But yeah, still got a bad taste in my mouth. So, thank you. Still got a bad taste in my mouth. So, thank you.
I spoke at the beginning, but I didn't say that my name is Jamaica Clary. I also go by Tammy. A lot of things have been mentioned, but I think it's important to reiterate things again. One of the things that brought this about is the quote-unquote housing crisis that we have throughout the United States. But a housing crisis does not mean you automatically just see all these buildings come up with apartments and say, yep, we need it. I love the idea, but it's not a smart growth idea. And not only that, we need affordable apartments. Affordable. So far, Lansky's been one, maybe not the greatest construction from what I've heard, and the next one is senior housing. That's it. But in the meantime, you've approved a luxury apartment above the new laundromat. The Brown building is not going to be income sensitive. They're not going to build the other apartment building next to the senior housing as income sensitive. The one going down by Miller's is not income sensitive. So explain to me why we need apartments downtown. I'm really disappointed both in the village as well as Jeff for not even attempting to go and meet with the residents to the north. That is the saddest thing I have ever heard. And not only that, but the Dazonias, who just bought their house across the alley. That is just, I mean, you cannot say, I'm from Mount Horeb, I grew up here. You can't say that and say that you are for real. I expect a lot more people. Green space. going from a lot that had a whole bunch of it to nothing. Just because the next block is done is not a good enough excuse. This really does need to go for a referendum. This has really divided the people, the way it's been handled, the way that you keep saying we can deal with this and that. And the other thing is TIF. Some of you have said that you're tired of going to a referendum on schools. Well, guess what? This is not going to address that until your children are graduated. That's all I have. This is not going to address that until your children are graduated. That's all I have.
So for everyone, you're doing a great job. Remember to also state your address too.
I feel like I'm in a brewer's. My name is Will Jansen. I reside at 805 Daniel Pass. And I would like to start by thanking the members of the Planning Commission. I'm sure you have some exciting moments, maybe not this kind of exciting, but I appreciate your service to democracy and our community, regardless of the outcome. So thank you for what you do. I lived on North 3rd Street for 25 years, so I can understand a lot of the concerns. And as I was thinking about my old neighborhood, I happened to start thinking about that alley, because that alley just keeps coming up, doesn't it? So I happened to look, I was like, I wonder what an alley really is. So I looked up state statutes. And under state statutes, under chapter 340, it talks about vehicles, and 340.01 gets into definitions. And 340.01 subsection 2 says an alley means every highway within the corporate limits of a city, village, or town primarily intended to provide access to the rear of a property fronting on another highway and not for the use of through traffic. So that's just what the statute says, and that just doesn't seem to comport with what your plans are. Having lived on 3rd Street for 25 years, I know what that alley is. It's a place for people to walk, to ride their bikes, for kids to get downtown, but now suddenly for lots of traffic. So I just have some safety questions. Mr. Vondra, I appreciated you talking about safety with the school district proposal. I have just some safety questions for you. Where would a bus stop to pick up or drop off kids? At some point there likely will be a family in that building that needs bus service. Maybe a special ed vehicle, maybe a regular school bus. I don't know where in the 4 streets around there a bus would stop. The alley is designated for exiting traffic, but how will that fit with what's already happening in that neighborhood? 3rd Street is quite narrow, with parking on one side. Now add all the traffic from that building. Where are the delivery vehicles going to stop? Where will they park? Where's the U-Haul truck going to sit for 3 or 4 hours while somebody unloads it? Which of the 4 streets gets blocked? Main Street? Where will they park? Second, third, the alley, which one doesn't get any traffic for 4 hours while the U-Haul unloads? I noticed the gas lines, at least the last presentation, were shown on the northwest corner of the building. In a narrow alley with that much traffic, I can't imagine those gas lines are in a safe place for people. And finally, I would just like to know that every emergency vehicle that would be called on to service that building can access the alley so they can get back in there. And if those are great, fabulous. Thank you so much for your time.
Hi, I'm with him. I like visuals. My name is Nikki Towell. I live on 306 Oak Street. My opposition is to the project, as I believe it's going to be the one that breaks the camel's back. So I want to talk about the fire department and our issues that we currently have with them. The fire department has made a statement that the increasing demands for our service have overwhelmed our current staffing numbers to the point that we cannot guarantee response to emergencies. That providing emergency services without enough resources makes us uncomfortable, and it should make our communities uncomfortable too. and that our community is continuing to grow at a small but steady pace. We don't anticipate any dips in 911 calls. They actually stated that in 2023, they had 31 delays. That is a lot, and it's also a big problem because 30 seconds, a minute, that's life or death for people. And I don't want that to be for me, my family, or any of my neighbors. So the current state where this came from was that there's a 40% increase in call volume. It was a 5-year study from 2020 to 2024. Well, 2019, but we all know what happened then. It had 213 people, and that was a positive growth of 2.75%. So that's that slow, steady growth they're talking about. So now if we look at our future state, this is not including this development. This is looking at the numbers that I could find online, digging, it might not be exact. It's probably under, to be honest. 193 apartments. So say 2 people live in each of those apartments because we want families, should even out, right? So that would be 386 people. That's an increase of 4.8% in 1 year. So we can't keep up with 4 years, 2.75. Now 4.8. So I'm looking at that and I'm like, wow, big problem, very concerned. So then I bring it to the village, we have the discussion about it. And they say that any long-term staffing issues at the fire department shouldn't be used to hold up any project unless the department expressed concerns over specific projects. So I said, well, how does that happen? Well, it's an informal discussion that didn't have any record that I could see or data that could show me. And that with this submission, there should be a formal submission, was what I got emailed. So I'm curious what those, I would like you to talk about the formal submission. Because I know that during the safety meeting, the police's won't be done until January. So I would hope that we're not approving something without a formal submission answering these questions. And then the other one was, if the district is at a place where they feel they cannot serve any additional development, they should be communicating it with all municipalities. I think that's what this does in the budget report, when they say we're concerned and our community should be concerned too. So I would like to make sure that we are safe and have a true discussion about it, not about vitality, not about is our community dying, but can our community... Is our community dying, but can our community...
Hi, I'm Alex Pfister. I own the property at 316 East Main Street. And I had a chance to talk to Jeff Grindle earlier in the week, and I looked at several of the changes that were made, and I think that lowering the building, lowering the units, improving the traffic flow through the building were good improvements. I think the building looks more appropriate with the changes he's made, at least he's getting close. And I think they did a pretty good job of trying to get the building more in line. I still see areas that I think are improvement, and one of the major areas I have has to do with parking. I asked the committee to refer to in their discussion, page 6 of the plan report, the parking requirements. Please review the parking report. Notice the parking requirements for downtown versus the rest of the village. You will see this proposal requires 54 stalls in downtown area and 97 stalls built anywhere else in the village. That's 43 stalls short of parking needs any place in the village. Why would we need less parking downtown than the rest of Mount Horeb? The facts are that every adult that lives in these apartments will have a car. All the employees that work in the stores will have cars. They all need a place to park. Currently, there are 21 stalls for existing businesses along the back of this property on the alley. This plan calls for no business parking. There's no evidence that simply because of its location, that this commercial and apartment building has any less need for parking than the rest of Mount Horeb. This is flexibility in the wrong direction. I see 2 solutions to the shortfall of parking. First of all, we reduce the building to match the space available for parking. This is likely a 2-story building with 20 apartments, providing necessary parking per village code. The second would be to find another lot, something that could provide the missing 43 stalls. The former police station on the corner of 3rd and Front Street could be made into a private parking lot for these tenants only. The advantage is that Jeff already owns that lot. The lot could also put traffic away from the residential neighborhood. I asked the committee and Jeff to consider this as a possibility. The advantage is that Jeff already owns that lot. The lot could also put traffic away from the residential neighborhood. I asked I sat on the planning commission and appreciate us like to make these decisions. They were tough. But parking is one of the highest priorities for all the parties opposed to this proposal. Making a decision that will last for the next 100 years should be tough. It should be said that you are asked to make good decisions, that you kept an open mind, you waited until all possibilities have been considered, and you represented the people of Mount Horeb first and foremost, then made a good decision. Thank you very much.
Brianne Byers, 208 West Main Street. I'll start, and I quote, "I want our community to be aware of significant changes my team and I have made to address many of the concerns we have heard." Significant. A word that would bear no meaning here if you had followed the zoning regulations and guidelines. Had you not made a large 3D drawing, you would have not had to make any significant changes. You went big so that you could make it look like you were sacrificing so much and you had to scale down. Nice tactic. If you put lipstick on a pig, it's still a pig. For those of you saying we oppose this because we are afraid of change, I ask you to go stand at 104 North 3rd Street and pretend you live there. Now look around and ask yourself if you would want a 3 or 4 story building being built there. Also, don't be too sure that you won't be next. If there's open space by you, be sure developers are moving in. I mean, we let Steve Brown Apartments into town. Has anyone actually rented from them? I know people who have, and I've never heard a positive review. My point is, don't forget to be neighborly. I mean, what is the point of living in town if you want to be a curmudgeon who doesn't care? Go live in the country. I totally get it, and often want to do that as well. Living here, we have a duty to work together and protect each other. I would be the demographic that would move into a place like this. I am not married, I have no kids, and I'm financially stuck in a renter's world. Now let me ask you, have you ever lived in an apartment without green space? It's really not great for mental health and overall morale. That's the last piece of green space down there, and you want to concrete the whole thing. If it's for the benefit of our community, I would think putting up simple things like some green space for grilling, people's pets, or community garden would be a top priority. Why build an apartment building in an area that has zoning rules and not enough space for the building you want to put there? And this is for diversity and the housing crisis. Why would a space on Main Street with not enough room be where you want it to go? If helping and benefiting us was your intention, why not find a space with ample room for your big, beautiful Langus? Put it somewhere where retail space doesn't have to be a necessity. Make it make sense. We have so much space elsewhere. Putting up a cheaply made structure that doesn't feel like home and traffic people in there with leases for what will be well over market value, I'm sure, isn't helpful. It's actually adding to the crisis. I believe the fight for this space is more for you to use buzzwords like charming Main Street and downtown living. I live on West Main Street, backed up to the alley you wish to make a road. Because it will be used way more often if this is built, let's be honest. Your traffic report does nothing for me. I have better data than anyone that was paid to watch for a couple of hours over a couple of days. I've lived on Main Street for the last 3 years. I work from home, so I spend most of my time at home. I also grew up here, so I have some history. When I reached out about the traffic and parking concerns, our president's response was that it's scheduled to be addressed, so what's the rush? Let's table this until 2033.
Good evening, I'm Diane Hirsch, 205 Ellen Court. Thank you for your time. As being on a board is never an easy thing to do. Jeff Rundle, thank you for trying to improve our community, but it's still just too big. And taking down one floor, take down another floor and switch up that building so you've got some green space so that the neighbors have a place to let the dog go poop and kids can play without stepping in the poop. I'm going to be a little bit shorter. Tim Scott, totally agree with you. The young lady that just went ahead of me, great. Geez, that was wonderful. At this point, I really feel if we can't get this building down to size, and Jeff, I understand you spent a lot of money for that property, but you really do need to listen to the village. You were once one of us, and you still are, that if we can't get this scrunched down so that it really fits our historical area, we need to go to referendum. We need to let the villagers truly have their say. And my greatest concern is that traffic on 2nd, 3rd, and Main Street, and the children that have to come and go from there. And if I'll volunteer to be one of your drivers, if you want to start doing an assessment of what it's going to take to turn left and then left again. When I worked, I left my home at 6:45 a.m. Find out what time retirees left for work and start lining us up and trying to get us out of there in a timely manner. Thank you for your time.
My name is Sean McGaugh. I live at 208 West Main. I really appreciate that we're all having this discussion and opening to the public, and I do appreciate the changes made. However, you still have to draw inside the lines. I'm reminded of a story. If you give a mouse a cookie, he ends up asking for something else. Eventually, he'll just ask for another cookie. And that's a cautionary tale of if you give an inch, they'll take a mile. The unprecedented changes to the zoning codes for this is going to give ammunition later for all of the rest of our historic downtown to be trampled and changed. I don't want that. The unprecedented changes to the zoning codes, that's it.
Lon Young. I'm sorry, Eileen Young. Sherman Moore. Okay. All right, then Eileen Young.
Thank you, Eileen Young, 108 South 4th Street. Thank you, Jeff, for all the bike parking. I know I'm one of the few people who commented on that, and I think it's one of the many improvements you've made in this iteration. I also want to note that I am part of one of those mythical households with 2 adults and only 1 car. So I would potentially be part of the demographic that would be renting, except I have friends who like to visit me and park. And there's no possibility of that. So even for our household, it wouldn't be a good fit. And so I think that even as someone who doesn't even have a driver's license, the parking is still a consideration and an issue. Another aspect is that part of urban living, and I noted in the documents that 2 of the comparison apartment buildings were in Middleton and Madison, which notably not only have public transportation, but also delivery. And we do have some delivery options. There's Melio's, there's pizza, but when I lived on the East Coast, in a townhouse, very little green space, a lot of that urban density, I had like 158 restaurants, and I could get crepes delivered to my doorstep at 8 a.m. It was amazing. Sadly, that is not available yet in Mount Horeb. We don't have the population to support the DoorDashers that we have that occasionally post their availability on Facebook. So the type of urban living that would allow for more comfortable lack of car just isn't available in our incredibly charming village. Another aspect of urban living that's incredibly important is third spaces. And I noticed that this revision got rid of the gym and the community room. I also didn't see the dog washing station that was promised, and it was so cool in the newest revision. And I think those are distinct lacks. And again, green space. A few years ago, I went to Seoul, courtesy of the Seoul Metropolitan Government. Seoul, with a population density of 42,000 as compared to our 2,100 or so, preserves 1/3 of their space as green space. I don't think the green space is negligible. I think that as a village, we can include the green space in new development, even in a dense downtown. And I think we should, and it would make it nicer. Thank you.
Christian Hill and Michelle Kelly.
Going once.
You're good. I'm sorry, you already had your time, and so, Michelle Kelly. You're good. Sorry, you already had your time, and so, Michelle Kelly.
Hello, Michelle Kelly, 109 South 4th Street. My points tonight are going to be varied, so I will separate them with the words bullet point, and they've kind of switched up as people have been talking, so I'll try to keep my numbers straight. First of all, new bullet point number 1, thank you for the microphones. Seriously, thank you so much for having each of you to have a microphone and to have these microphones for everybody to hear, because this is a huge improvement, so thank you to the administration for making this change. It's really great. Okay, bullet number 2. This should be decided by a referendum. So thank you. With the strong opposition that has been expressed by a larger than normal percentage of the population, combined with the administration's track record of ignoring these very citizens, in my opinion, the decision should ultimately be made by the people, not the village board. While we cannot force a binding referendum, unfortunately, I believe we should begin requesting and demanding a referendum on whether this building should be constructed or not. Such a referendum would not be unprecedented. We've had referendums in the past in this community. The remodel of the PC building and the 6th Street Bridge, for example. I'm not sure about the golf course, can't remember if that was a referendum or not. We've had referendums. It was, okay. Bullet point number 3. It's just the wrong place for this building. This is a perfectly fine building in a different location. It is just not the right building for those lots. It would be an excellent benefit to this community if it was somewhere else in the village. Somewhere where there's more space, as others have said. For example, what about swapping land located near First Choice or Summit? Because that would be a win-win-win for all of the major stakeholder groups. Jeff would get his building, including 4 floors and enough parking to satisfy his tenants. The tenants of the building would have enough parking and would have proximity to more options, such as Sunrise Park, banking, Highway 18151. And the village would get the opportunity to enter into a public-private partnership to develop the historic downtown with a more intentional approach. This is the type of creative thinking that needs to happen, and it's just not happening. My last bullet point, I really don't want to say this one, but it's been too hard, and I need to. I want to believe that Jeff thinks he has the best interest of the community in mind with this proposal. I really do. But given the fact that he has heard literally hundreds of his community members state vehemently that they are against this building in that location, and his responses have not included making the structure smaller in terms of the space it takes up on the ground floor, I'm beginning to wonder if his primary interest is not the community, but he will benefit from it.
Judy Gray, and Phil Livermore.
I'm beginning to wonder if his primary interest is not the community, but he will benefit from it.
Judy Gray, and Phil Livermore.
Hi, I'm Jeannie Wright. I live at 200 North 4th Street. The village is very pro-development, and there's a lot of understanding why. But of course, then that leads to density and traffic and parking problems. And I think that if we address the traffic problem, it would alleviate a lot of the parking problems. Our inability to add stop lights at Oak or 4th or 3rd Street, we're just told that can't happen. And I really wonder if that's true or not. If we could, even if it meant changing where the existing parking light is to space them out better, we need to do something about that. Then the other things would be, like I said, traffic, fixing the traffic problems, pulling the traffic away from Main Street could really make this easier. I think that, you know, there's always going to be unattractive options. It's always like what we're dealing with right now in my backyard. You could consider the fact that you could take 78 through town at the Quick Trip, right through the center of town. The town's kind of shaped like a football. So in one direction you go to Black Earth, and then you go out past the high school, put a stoplight at the high school, go straight out, and really work on the state to put a new entrance to the village right in the middle like that. Go Black Earth straight through town and out to the new location. Then if people want to go into the southern neighborhoods, they wouldn't have to take the first exit. They could just take the second exit and go home. It'd take a lot of pressure off the main street. Another thing, Garfield is a pretty approachable street. It runs all the way from out by the police station. You go right past the high school at the new stop sign, new stoplight, go right on through there, out past Garfield, through Norris, through the back of Norris. Okay, now you're in somebody else's backyard. But right now, it dead ends on both sides of the golf course. Why did they do that if it wasn't that they realized at some point we may have to just go through there? Now you've got a parallel option to Main Street, and you're pulling traffic away from Main Street again. If people don't want to come downtown, they just go down that street and go home on the south side. There are other ways that we can look at this, new ways we can look at this, to pull the traffic away from the main street. And I think we really need to consider some of that. And the other thing, the last thing I would say is,
All right, Phil Leavenworth, and then Stephen Sobek.
the other thing, the last thing I would say is,
Would you raise your hand so I can see you? Thank you. There's a lot of faces.
My name is Phil Leavenworth. I live at 230 North Grove Street.
there's a lot of faces.
I vacated my seat because I feel uncomfortable with my back to so many wonderful citizens of this village. But I want to address you directly and tell you that I am in opposition to this building. I've lived here for 30 years, raised my family here, and it's been a wonderful village to live in. I'm deeply concerned by what I consider to be the gradual trashing of the village character. I'm talking about the quality of the village. That is done by the infrastructural destruction that we will face in maybe not next year or the following year, but in 20, 30, or 30 years when the population, it's going to double in 10 years. An estimates that I heard in the Public Safety Commission meeting on Monday. We're going to have 15,000 people. We're going to add another 10,000 people over the next 10 years. That will be 17,700 people. And in 30 years, how are we going to move maybe another 10,000? 25,000? 17,700. If you go through the village of Mount Horeb in the Central Business District from 4th to Washington, now it's congested. How are we going to triple the population of this village and have it moved? Many people have spoken to this issue. Becky and Ellen and Joy and Tim and others, all of us are telling you that every day we struggle now with the traffic. Parking. There's only parallel parking on Main Street, you know that. And people aren't generally very good at parallel 2 to 3 efforts. And when you have fire trucks, police vehicles, buses, the school buses, semi-tractor trailer rigs, tractors from John Deere going up and down that street, it's going to be a nightmare. Maybe not next year, but certainly 20, 30 years it will be. You're not going to tear this building down in 30 years. This building is a non-starter, in my opinion, and almost everybody in this room. You should listen to them. Are you listening to the villagers? They're asking you, they're pleading with you not to impose this impediment on our village. I'm talking about the quality of life in our village. That's why we moved here. That's the style of this village, the panache, the reputation. You're decreasing my home value on Grove Street by imposing this logistical logjam in the middle of the village. Thank you.
My name is Stephen Sopak. I live at 215 North River Drive. I'm opposed to this project. I think we should keep the zoning on what it is. And let's step back for a second. That zoning was put there for a purpose. This land is a commodity. And we only got so much of this land here. So why would you even consider putting apartments there? Why not focus on commercial? And that way you can have a commercial building with green space and be creative. All we got is really a box with some insets and some decorative elements. But if we focus, if the developer really is for our community and to really cherish this commodity and to build our downtown, why would you focus on commercial? If he did focus on commercial, we would have parking issues for the apartment, because it wouldn't be an apartment there, it would be commercial for 2 stories. I visited my niece in Holland, Michigan. If you go down their downtown, majority of all the buildings for their commercial area are 2-story, and they're gorgeous. They have their own style, but why can't we do the same thing and take this valuable commodity, because we don't have this land anymore. If you build this building that they propose, then we're only going to have this little bit of commercial. If you focus on commercial, you could wrap around 3rd Street and you have a 2nd story of commercial. And you could do some neat things and provide green space. You could really architecturally really do some creative stuff rather than doing what you're proposing by including apartments, which we really don't need. If you really look at downtown and what's coming online with the other 63, do we really need apartments there? I think we need to focus on commercial, be creative, embrace our heritage, the architecture, and what we have. And just because you call it a longhouse doesn't mean it's a longhouse. I think if you really embrace your building, put your own name on it, and then, so everybody knows that you built this building. I always taught to be proud of what you're doing. So if you're really proud of this, put your name on it. Don't call it something that's not. Thank you.
Hi, Jackie Sado, 411 North 4th Street. The plan for the building we are looking at tonight, it's still too big. Its mass and scale do not fit the downtown character, and I'm sure you know that the comprehensive plan requires that new development match design aesthetics to preserve the small town feel. The idea of a planned development is to provide for a higher level of architectural control and other aspects of site design. There are too many flexibilities taken with this plan, including the clear violation of the requirement for 15% green space. Because the village has ignored the requirement in the past does not mean that it can be ignored now. Projects in other communities have been pointed out. One was Wanakee, and it's really not comparable. I spent about an hour walking around in Wanakee, the main street, the downtown, and walking around the building that has been talked about at one other meeting. Actually, the building's across the street from Quick Trip, so this is not a historic district. And it has wide, new streets with parking on both sides, on the side of the building and in the back of the building. The rear of the lot is bordered by green space, which appeared to be a park. So that building and our site downtown cannot be compared. A huge building directly adjacent to our old residential neighborhood with an alley does not compare.
Please think about our own situation on Main Street, being the only way out of town for all the north side of Maine, even from Lake Street. Please consider that there can't be any overflow parking on 3rd Street. It's only one-side parking, and it already has cars parked there night and day. I drive down that street about 3 times a week, and there's no parking. 4th and 2nd Street, they do have 2-side parking, but if 2 cars were parked there, or cars were parked on each side of the street, and you drove down those streets, and you met another car, good luck with that. Those streets weren't made for this kind of traffic. The UW housing survey done with the village in 2021 called for small infill projects with 2 4-plexes that match the surrounding neighborhoods. The report calls for 155 market rate dwellings, 100 income qualified housing, and an increase in senior housing. Currently,
Thank you, Jackie. We have to pause it.
I'm sorry.
You're at your 3 minutes and we have to pause it.
155 market rate dwellings.
Your 3 minutes are up.
Really?
Sorry. Time flies when you're having fun.
I timed it at home and I thought I was well within my...
All right, Jack and Millick.
There was a method to my madness to have you all sit in the center. But I do appreciate the extra steps.
And if anyone does want to come up and sit in the center to make it easier for her, you're welcome to.
Halfway through. Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. My name is Jacqueline Gullick. My family resides at 408 South Brookwood, and I work on East Main Street. I'm here once again to voice my support for the proposed JG development. At this point, we have been through several meetings and revisions and a lot of public comments. The developer has clearly worked in good faith to address concerns, and tonight I'm asking the commission to focus on the facts in front of us and not on feelings. During the last meeting on October 22nd, Commissioners Sarah and Andrew specifically suggested reducing the project from 4 stories to 3 stories, and stated doing so would address concerns about parking, density, and floor area ratios. The developer listened. The 4th floor was removed, the scale was reduced, and ratios were improved. On top of that, commercial space was increased, creating more opportunities for retail, dining, and other businesses. Additionally, the proposed project directly aligns with goals outlined in the 2022 comprehensive plan. That plan calls for fostering new housing, growing the local economy, and supporting mixed-use development in exactly this part of town. The central mixed-use designation explicitly encourages pedestrian-oriented commercial space with upper-story residential. So the question isn't whether this development fits a long-term plan, it clearly does. We can't say that we want young professionals, empty nesters, and new families, but then reject the very housing that makes that possible. We can't say that we want a vibrant downtown and then ask why can't this development be built out by the highway or Miller's parking lot. That's simply not where people want to live. And it's residents who create the vibrancy we say we're looking for. And we can't ask a developer to make change after change after change, only to move the goalposts every time those concerns are addressed. The project has been scaled down, refined, and aligns with both commission feedback and the direction set in our 2022 comprehensive plan. I respectfully urge the commission to approve this proposal so that our community can secure a strong, sustainable future for the downtown district. Thank you.
Karen Johnson.
Set in our 2022 comprehensive plan. I respectfully urge the commission to approve this proposal.
Good evening. My name is Karen Johnson. I live at 100 East Front Street, and I also work in Mount Horeb. Most of us care about the future of this village, and I want to begin by acknowledging the concerns that have been expressed about this project. We all share the same goal, ensuring that our community remains vibrant, welcoming, and sustainable for years to come. I'm here today in support of the proposed apartment building because I believe it represents a thoughtful and responsible investment in the village's future. This project will provide housing options for residents at different stages of life. Young professionals, families, and seniors who want to remain part of this community they love or want to become a part of this community. We've all seen the housing shortage affects not just prices, but the diversity and vitality of our local population. Adding well-designed, appropriately scaled housing helps address those challenges in a meaningful way. Importantly, JG Development has shown a willingness to work with the village, listen to feedback, and make adjustments. The current plan reflects many of the community's priorities, including architectural compatibility and a commitment to preserving the character of this makes this village unique. Supporting this project does not mean ignoring concerns. It means recognizing that growth, when managed responsibly, strengthens the long-term health of the community. It means creating opportunities for people who want to live here, work here, and contribute to the local economy. And it means embracing a vision for the village that balances tradition with progress. I hope we can move forward together with an open mind and a shared understanding that thoughtful development is essential to keeping this village thriving. Thank you.
All right, we have Minokas, Nico, Jesse, and Kurt. Hope you have it.
Good evening, everybody. Nico Noka. I'm at 111 North 2nd Street. Been there going on 9 years. And before that, I resided at 113 North 2nd Street for nearly a quarter of a century. With that in mind, of the nearly 3 decades of living 200 feet from the proposed site, I can say that I have a unique perspective on some of the issues that have been raised, and one of which being the traffic and the amount of cars that will just congest the area, and from my time childhood through adulthood, the amount of times I've nearly been clipped by vehicles in that alleyway specifically, it's uncounted. And so you want to add a huge new development and a ton of new tenants from out of town who have no knowledge or awareness of the immediate surroundings, you're going to multiply issues exponentially. But main focus of what I wanted to share tonight was that over 1,500 tax-paying residents have signed petitions against the JG development. Hundreds have signed paper statements against this project. Countless letters to the editor have been published arguing against this project in the Horeb Mail. As previously acknowledged, over 750 mailers were returned by residents asking for denial of this project. And now here's an auditorium filled with citizens concerned about this project. This has never happened before in Mount Horeb. Please acknowledge your constituents' voices and their presence. You are a commission of 7 citizens. Only 2 of you were elected. That means the majority of you were not elected by village voters, but were rather appointed to your positions. None of you have backgrounds in economic development, planning, and zoning. While I'm grateful for your service, don't you think that it's about time to allow the voting residents of Mount Horeb to determine the future of this project? Considering the never before seen level of public engagement, is this an issue that a majority of appointed individuals should control the approval of? Please allow the citizenry that you are supposed to represent adjudicate the future of this project by putting this to a binding referendum. Thousands should be making this decision rather than 7. If you believe this project should go forward and the voters agree with you, so be it. Likewise, if voters believe it should be stopped, so be that. But respect their voices. Petition the village board to initiate a village referendum tonight. It's time for the tax-paying voters of Mount Horeb to decide what they want for their community. And it's too damn big. I apologize for my message.
My name name is Jessie Noka. I live on the street, and I have for 24 of my 30 years of life. I also want to address the need for a referendum. We've done it multiple times with the 6th Street Bridge, with the renovation of the primary center, as well as with the golf course. You've had thousands of villagers actively expressing their opinions against this project. And we've heard, we've heard discussions or talk about a silent majority, but I think the only way to prove that there actually is this silent majority is to put it to a referendum and letting people vote. I would like to mention, excuse me, I think it's kind of funny that the word quirky keeps being thrown around in reference to the look of the building. I don't think it would look quirky if you wrote quirky across it. Unfortunately, the people keep saying there shouldn't be an issue with parking, but 55 rooms, but you're going to have much more than 55 tenants. Most people do not share cars anymore. Most people aren't working from home anymore. It's going to create a massive issue for parking both on 3rd Street and on 2nd Street. 3rd Street is only one side parking. I don't know what they do in the winter for alternate side parking, but on 2nd Street, it's tough for us. And I understand that you want to maximize profit on the property that you purchased, but you purchased it with these restrictions in place, knowing that those restrictions were in place. And what would you say to the 5 backyards that will now be looking up to your tenants rather than having their quaint little backyards? You're going to be reducing the value of all those properties just in order to make a bit more profit on the land that you purchased. So I think that it's important to listen to especially the north side residents, because we only have 3 entrances to our neighborhood. 2nd Street, 3rd Street, and 4th Street, because Oak Street is a one-way. So without the alleys, and alleys are not an appropriate place to divert traffic. They just aren't. And coming out of the telephone company from the alley, it's pretty much a blind exit. So we had ingrained in us as children riding bikes that we had to be very careful, and I might half trust the workers of the telephone company, but I don't trust the 80-some tenants that will be living in your building. So, thank you. Workers of the telephone company, but I don't trust the 80-some tenants that will be living in your building. So,
Kurt Noka, 113 North 2nd. This commission is a commission of 7 public servants, and you are empowered to represent the best interests of our village. In my 43 years as a resident of the village, I've never seen this level of public engagement over a village developmental proposal. 1,800 plus petition signatures against. It's 2 big signs throughout the village. Letters to the editor every week. A larger meeting space necessary for the first public hearing. 200 plus people at that hearing that required separate spaces, forcing many away due to the lack of seating. The majority of public speakers against, many additional statement cards against. Remember, you are a commission of 7 public servants who are empowered to represent the best interests of our village. 700 plus resident mailers returned with 900 plus signatures against. An even larger venue here necessary for this meeting. Tremendous attendance at this second public meeting. A majority of speakers against, a majority attendance against. Broad news coverage outside of Mount. The public outcry against this project is warranted. The project is too big. It doesn't fit the site, the historic downtown, the historic neighborhood. It's too high, it's too dense, it fills the entire lot and eliminates green space. It has insufficient parking, it has traffic and safety issues, it doesn't conform to current zoning. In only a 16-foot alley, it will force traffic to a 2nd Street traffic light, a blind intersection already traffic heavy in a historic neighborhood. Village TIF funds seem to be a requirement of the developer. Do you 7 commissioners hear the voices of hundreds, if not thousands, of your village residents against this project? Their presence and voices mean they're not being heard. Your community is asking that you vote no. You have the ability tonight to vote no or to recommend that this proposal go to a binding referendum of the residents, property owners, village of Mount Horeb. Mount Horeb has done this before, and I mean by referendum. Please show us that you represent us by voting no or by recommending to the village board that this issue go to a binding village referendum. Every Mount Horeb voter can then vote for or against their best interests. You, our 7-member planning commission, have nothing to lose. The voters will make this decision for you. Or against their best interests.
My name is Karen Erickson, 207 West Circle. This proposed building would dominate nearly 1/4 of our whole downtown. As you know, people are talking. They have questions. Small business owners on our main street are asking why they are required to meet all of the requirements, while this developer is not meeting most of those same requirements. More than 1,800 people have signed a petition that says no. Hundreds of people are attending these meetings to say no. Dozens of people writing letters to the editor, letters to all of you, the 750 postcards, all of these speeches that we're writing to say no. Remember when our parents used to say, no means no? If the developer has an idea, but hundreds of people say it's not right, it's not right. 2 years ago, I survived brain surgery. There's nothing like laying in the hospital for 7 days to make a person think about what really matters in life. Over 150 years ago, our Mount Horeb village was founded by hardworking, humble, and helpful people. That tradition continues today. We cannot allow this development to destroy the character, the culture, and the community spirit of our Mount Horeb. A legacy has been passed to us. We have a responsibility to protect it for the next few generations. We can't ruin that legacy. Please vote no on this development. Thank you for your service in representing all of us. Thank you.
Joel Charles and Paul Messer.
Thank you for your service in representing all of us. Thank you.
Joe Carlos, 035 Corey Lane, Verona. I'm a Mount Horeb High School graduate. I have a business just outside of town. I'd like to start with saying I don't know anybody or too many people in this room that have done more for Mount Horeb than Jeff Grumman. If you think for a second Jeff Grumman would do a project that would hurt Mount Horeb, that's just not the case. He has the best intentions for everything he does in town here and everywhere he goes. Clearly, this is a very large and loud topic in Mount Horeb. If anybody in or around town has not heard about this, they must be living under a rock. There have been several public meetings, Facebook pages, signs all around town, and even a mailer sent to everybody in the Mount Horeb zip code. I'm not sure if you could get any more public knowledge on this. I don't think there's an easier way for someone to express their opposition than simply signing their name to a postcard that was sent to them in the mail and simply dropping it back in their mailbox. 5,000 flyers were sent out and 958 names were sent back. 19%. Not to mention there's over 7,000 registered voters in the village. Of the remaining 81% of the people that received the postcards, they might be in favor of it, but at a minimum, they don't care. I've talked to many local businesses downtown, restaurants, bars, shops, etc., and most of them are in favor of this project, but are not speaking out about it because it's so polarizing and fear of backlash. Something's going to happen with these 3 spots on Main Street. Would you rather have it be somebody like Jeff, who's committed to our town from Mount Horeb and has nothing but the best interest for town and has done several other great projects here, than somebody that is not from Mount Horeb or has no emotional investment into our community? I ask that you approve this. And it does have other great projects here.
Paul, and then Jim DeSoni after that.
Hi, I'm Paul Nesha, 307 Green Street. First of all, it's great to see so many people engaged here tonight. I love it that there's so many people here. And most people have shocked that I've already said much of what I was going to say. So I'm just going to wing it here. I've been following this project since I heard about it this last summer. I was happy that something's going to happen next to the MHTC building. Something does need to happen there. But when I found out about what was going to be built there, I thought, well, that seems kind of big. But I wasn't sure about what the zoning was there, so I went to the meeting, and happily there was a lot of people there who did know the zoning codes, and I turned them out to developers how they were greatly exceeding most of them. There's also mention of making the building quirky. I like quirky's fun. So I was curious to see what was going to happen when we came back with for the next meeting, which was at the fire department, and I was a bit confused by that because even though that all these codes were pointed out to them, they still exceeded them. They did manage to make the building quirky. They trimmed the front part off and left the back part long, so they gave the building a mullet. Quirky. So once again, people expressed that this was too big. People pointed out the codes were. I saw the developers taking notes, so I figured one more chance and they'll get it right. But I come to this meeting and you did go in that direction, but you're still not meeting the codes. And I'm confused by that because I'm sure you understand what the codes are, but you're still exceeding them. I'm starting to think, and I really hate to say this, but it's not an ignorance or the code, it's just you don't care about the codes. That more of a, yeah, it gives me no pleasure to say that you don't care about the codes. I've lost the track of thought here, but I'm seeing more of this in the country lately. This last year, somebody went and paved over a rose garden. They took down a historic building and are going to build a ballroom there that, and you're going to keep hearing this, way too big. So I don't like what's happening in this nation. I don't like that happening, and I sure as hell don't like it in Mount Horeb. Thanks.
Jim? And I'll be Joe Geisspieler after that.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Jim DeSonia. I am the resident at 104 North 3rd Street. That would be adjacent on the other side of the alley from where the proposed building is. So it was nice to hear that Jeff met with MHTC to address some of their concerns. So we have not had that same, we haven't sent anything or anything as well, but obviously this has the potential to greatly impact us. We've, just to put it in perspective, we moved here in July. We chose Mount Horeb. Fell in love with Mount Horeb when we came and we looked at the house. You know, we looked in Madison, the issues Madison, everything's, you know, congested, tight and everything, and, you know, a little bit more open. If we probably would have known something like this was going to occur before we purchased the house back in May, it probably would have given us pause and we would have thought more of where we chose to live. But anyways, not only speaking here as a homeowner directly next to the project, but also to give my perspective as a 26-year safety professional who has made it his career to protect people from taking risks. The thought process for what I do for a living is to be more proactive and figure things out before they happen versus being reactive. So just, you know, we've lived there for 4 months. I've seen a lot. We're there every day. Some of you experience it very little. Some of you maybe never experience it, but we do. So you know, there's a lot of things that I see. You know, you add a bunch of people into that area, it's really going to congest things. You know, Amazon delivers. Where are all these people going to get their packages? Where are they going to park? Many people have brought these things up, right? I just, you know, going down the alley, it's unbelievable how many people use that alley. Pedestrians, bike traffic, lots of kids. I mean, that corner there where people walk, you know, down the sidewalk next to the MHTC, that is a blind, someone else brought it up earlier, that is a blind corner. Now you're just going to double, triple the amount of volume that's going to go there. There's going to be near misses, lots of near misses. I'd hate for something to happen. Now you're just going to, you know, by ignoring the requirement for the 15% green space, I think that's a no-go. You know, just living there real quickly, you know, the refuge company that picks up our trash, they're like, hey sir, can you bring your garbage cans out to the street because it's really hard to navigate that alley and pick up your stuff. I'm sure. Absolutely. So I can only imagine as that building encroaches on the alley, how much tighter it's going to be, where all these deliveries are going to be made. So, you know, I'm just asking you guys, please consider listening to the community. Only lived here for 4 months. This is a great way to meet people in the community, believe it or not. Not really what we signed up for, but I appreciate it. Really give it a consideration. Thank you.
Joel, and then Amy Mertz.
Joel Geisfieler. I live at 400 Blueview Drive here in Mount Horeb. Over the last several months, I've stayed fairly quiet during the discussion around this proposed downtown project. But something that happened 2 weeks ago pushed me to speak up. Walking from the chamber office to Sun Cafe, I was approached by 3 men asking for my opinion on the project across the street, then asking me to fill out a card opposing it. After I shared why I support the project, I asked them where they were from. One was from Stoughton, 2 were from Oregon. 3 individuals from out of town, standing in the middle of our community, telling me how this project is going to impact me. If someone wants to speak on how this project will affect our downtown, I think that voice should come from the people who live here. From 2021 to 2023, my 2 kids and I lived right in the heart of downtown. Above the Potter's Global building. For 2 years, we lived and breathed this community. We patronized our businesses daily. The Viking, Bistro 101, Sun Cafe, Schulin's, Skull, The Grumpy Troll, Buck and Honey's, Gempler's, Duluth Trading Company, Olson's Flowers, McPhee, Maine, Isaac, Sift and Wade. I worked out at Fire and Ice. We visited the Driftless Historian, Graham Foster's Park, Rundle Park, the green space down on Garfield. I used to joke that downtown at a grocery store, we would never have to leave. Here's the part that hurts. 4 to 5 of those businesses have since closed. Not because the community didn't love them, and not because their storefronts weren't quaint or charming, because they didn't have enough business. So I asked, what would their health of those businesses look like if 44 more units of families, people living downtown, walking to dinner, grabbing coffee, shopping on Main Street, and some of those businesses still be open today? Could we have an even more thriving downtown? And honestly, are some of our businesses struggling to get people through the door every day? To me, what makes our downtown charming and unique isn't a single building. It's not a feeling, it's the businesses and the people that pour their lives into running them. The best way to support those businesses and keep our town humming with opportunity is to ensure we have enough people living, shopping, and spending time downtown. That's why I support this project.
Amy Mertz.
Is to ensure we have enough people living, shopping, and spending time downtown. That's why I support this project.
Amy Mertz.
Hi, I'm Amy Mertz, 111 Longview Street. I just wanted to say every opinion here is valid. I'm glad we all live in a community where we can share them. I'm also I really like a lot of the people here who are sharing their opinions, and I'm about to disagree with a lot of you, so sorry. I don't think the current buildings on the block are good use of the downtown real estate. I've said that before at the last meeting, I'll say that again. We can't rewind and build the historic buildings that I think a lot of us would love to see. This project is the next best thing. It's in line with the comprehensive, and leaving the block as is does not fit in with the comprehensive plan. Some people want more green space. I actually work for a nonprofit. I protect land from development. I think that the people who are saying like build it somewhere else, I protect places that are somewhere else. And infilling downtown actually preserves natural landscapes and agricultural land by concentrating development where it belongs. We also have a beautiful trail that runs right through our downtown. That is green space. We have a park downtown. That is green space. There are concerns about traffic, congestion. I actually think we need more activity downtown. There's going to be a lot of remote workers and retirees living in this building. It's very unlikely people will be flooding the place in and out from 8 to 4, or at 8 and 4. I live right by Lansby Ridge. I have noticed no difference in traffic from that building. Regarding parking, I've never had a parking problem. I'm willing to walk a block or two. Some people aren't, some people can't, and I get that. But I think the parking concerns are overstated. Also, you build this somewhere else, and people come downtown. Where are they going to park when they go out to eat? Where are they going to park when they go shopping? It's still the same number of people. It's just a different place. Jeff has compromised so much. I'm hearing little to no compromise from everybody else. He's a lifer here with a successful track record. I trust his judgment. He knows how to build things. I don't think this should go to referendum. I think you're all capable, appointed and elected officials. You're better trained than most of us to make this decision. I also think that some of the petition signers might have changed their minds since the project has been revised, since they signed it. So you'd have to redo the petition. Please think big picture and long term about this project, about things like declining enrollment in our schools. Think about what's best for the future of the whole community, not only those who live or work downtown. Thank you. Think about what's best for the future.
Steve Helwig. And Jennifer Gatwell after that. Steve Helwig.
Good evening. My name is Steve Helwig. I live at 410 North 4th Street. And I will agree with a lot of sentiments about, I think this is awesome that we're having a public forum about this. To begin, I'm going to state that I am in favor of this project for the reasons that have been stated by a few of the individuals ahead of me. One of the big things that I will say is the location is proper for the type of development that's going there. My daughter had a conversation, and she's 16, in this school, and the discussion was, what is the best use of that property? And it was very clear today in how we develop communities for people to live downtown and to have businesses and to have that in local, right where people can walk and do things downtown. I think Amy made a good point about the green space that is available. And yes, it is not included in this parcel, but this parcel was designed to make the best use of the space that it had. Jeff is brilliant in building. I know him as a person. His integrity is higher than a lot of people are giving him credit tonight in this forum. He does care about the big picture, and he is looking to do something that is economically going to be an influx to our downtown. Yes, it's change. And change has got us all talking about it. What I'm hoping is that after we get through this and the Planning Commission has had their opportunity to do what task that has been presented to them, they know the zoning, they know the rules, and we're all asking them to do their best in this task. I'm just hoping that as we go through this, we all realize what a commitment and investment that Jeff is putting into this community, how it's going to help our housing circumstances downtown. We're looking for apartments that didn't come from a vacuum, that came from plans that our village has done in our surveys. Businesses are needed downtown, and they are going to help contribute to the restaurants. Many restaurants, including one that's just across the street, which I used to frequent, is no longer there. And I've been in several other restaurants, and Joel has said the same thing. Many of them are begging to have more people living downtown, and this is the right use of that space. So, not being an expert on this, but personally seeing that this is going to be an economic impact for our community, again, I'm in favor of this project.
Thank you. Jennifer Gottwald, I live at 309 South 4th Street. I want to thank everybody up here, and I also want to thank Jeff Brundle for compromising, for listening, for making some changes. I'm still in opposition, but I think I'm getting closer, and I think more could help. Don't want to just quickly reiterate a couple of things. I am concerned about parking and traffic. I don't think that's been addressed. I'm also concerned about green space right there. Yes, we have it nearby, but breaking things up, just thinking about that whole block with now a gate between it, and it's all like that. You know, put some of the doors in, allow for some planters, allow for some benches, and for a few more things like that. I am also just concerned it's still a bit too big. Can you do another little setback somewhere? Down to 2 stories would be great. I want to give a shout out to the Mount Horeb Mail and to Kathy Scott for covering these meetings so well. Some of the discussion I heard from the Plan Commission last time, and also from, I know you're working on the code at the same time, this is really confusing with the timing going on here. I would ask, does this still fit that unique space we have downtown? We have to be a bit more careful with that. It's only a few blocks there that are really different from everywhere else in town. I also want to ask, with the new codes being, the new zoning and the new codes being considered, would this still require the exceptions to that if those were in place right now? And if so, can we get closer to what you're currently planning and adapting there? A couple of things I've heard tonight that just leave me with questions about, you know, what's the information I've read and where we're going with this and what's changing. I don't think it's changing goalposts. I think this whole thing is complex and changing on all sides, which all good development should be. The economic studies, those were in the plan but not really updated for the fewer apartments. I didn't see a mention of TIP in there. Maybe I don't know enough and didn't see it, so I think that's changing a bit. And also I've heard varying things about this alley and whether it's one way or not and who makes that decision and what the consequences are. So just want to encourage everyone to keep listening, talking, and collaborating, and I think we'll get to something.
All right, David Sherlock. And then if there's anyone else who I missed in the wishing to speak, let me know, raise your hand, let Dan know. Her may have been put in with the register only section.
Thank you. David Sherlock, 309 South 4th Street. I stood in opposition at the previous meeting, and while I do appreciate the changes that have been presented tonight, I am still in opposition. It's gone from being way too big to just being too big. There's still no green space, and it still negatively and irreversibly impacts the fabric of the historic downtown. In the interest of time, I'll simply say that as regards both the building itself and the apparent desire to ignore the zoning requirements to accommodate it, I echo all of the comments made in opposition tonight. Thank you.
All right, thank you all. Actually, Diane, if that camera, that mic's not needed, we can use it up here unless it's not able to. So just in case, make life a little easier for Sharon as we get into discussions. Oh, I'm sorry, one more. Oh, please, sorry, one more. Thank you. Just in case, make life a little easier for Sharon as we get into discussions. Oh, I'm sorry, one more. Oh, please, sorry, one more. Thank you.
Hi everybody, my name is Kayla Meister. I live at 300 Oak Street, apartment B. I've lived there for 4 years now, but I've been a Mount Horeb resident my whole life. Just like Mr. Scott, Amanda, Jim, Nikki, anybody else I may have missed, we're right at the heart of where this is going to be affected. There's not any parking space on 3rd Street. When there's events downtown, when there's the Witches Night Out, festivals, everything, garage sales, there's not enough room to begin with. You add these events in, there's still not enough room. With this being as big as it is, it's just going to create more chaos. There's already enough safety issues as it is. As a former law enforcement officer, I already see the concerns there. It's not going to end well. Somebody's going to get hurt with the blind corners, with the one-way traffic. There's going to be traffic. There's not going to be law enforcement that's going to be able to respond either in time or get to where they need to go effectively. And as a Meister, I feel like I know a thing about legacy. I am one of the few remaining family members of the family tree from Dr. Clarence Gonstead, who was married to Elvira Meister, my great-great-grandpa's sister. When he came to Mount Horeb to build his clinic and to build the golf course, the hotel, everything around that, he knew what he wanted to do and he had the space to do that. And I feel like if you want to create a legacy, I think you need to do it elsewhere. I enjoy the 4-story plan. I think it's a great idea. I understand what you want to do. I think downtown Mount Horeb, where that's at, I think it's just the wrong place to do it. I hate to see the Caracal the way that it is in, but if it means that we bulldoze it down and say goodbye to it and build it there, build it out by Summit Credit Union, somewhere over there, I think that's a better spot for it to create that legacy, to leave something to leave behind. Thank you.
All right, we're going to take about a 5-10 minute recess, so get a little break. When we come back, we'll restart when everyone, applicants and plan commissioners and staff are ready. We're going to take about a 5-10 minute recess, so break. When we come back, we'll restart when everyone.
Oh, okay, perfect. And then it'll be on our tollway. Probably, we're gonna try to figure out. Watch it or? Oh, it'll be on, like it's on right now. It's live stream. Awesome, thank you. Only if we can do this. I knew even know it's all
I didn't know those. We're trying to expedite. I'm over there. So yeah, so there I see them all on them there, but he says he couldn't help them. It's hard to do. Say by the way, 5 people were born. No, 3 of them are later. Well, that's, yeah. No, you can see other than me being in every damn shot, I'm trying to get it. I'm trying to I'm like, don't you dare give me every shots.
We'll be right back.
I don't know if it's your stance or chaperones to watch. All right, they'll be happy. Thank you. Well done, Dr. People. I need it. It's great. Such an improvement. Anyway, Carrie, keep up the good work. Are you going to rant?
Mr. Shelf,
You need more than one mic here? Testing. Testing. Testing.
right, we are back in session. Thank you all. All right, I'm going to jump into it. So I want to give the applicant and staff opportunities to kind of address questions, comments that came up, or kind of help frame, either give us the correct information or some background stuff or whatever. So please proceed.
Okay, yeah, thank you very much. So I'll try to pull this one from the person. We'd like to just address a couple of the comments that were made tonight. And as we go forward, I just want to clarify a few items. First of all, before we get into some of the zoning requirements, we put together a little graphic here that just shows some of the rooftops in downtown Horeb. So Nick, if you could please flip to the next slide. This is actually pulled from the Dane County GIS system. It's online, everybody can access it. It's simply an aerial photo, and Dane County actually colored in all of the yellow rooftops. So what we wanted to do is look at this just from a purely a rooftop density perspective. And what does downtown mean? In Mount Horeb, of course, we're talking about Mount Horeb, but this is true of every community. And downtown communities tend to be more infill, they tend to be more dense. And so what I wanted to see was, and maybe if you could flip to the next slide, let's extract all the clutter, let's get rid of the trees and the cars and everything else, and let's just look at the rooftops. This same thing is pulled off of Dane County GIS. I just simply did a screenshot of it, that's all. And so if you go up one, this same thing is this, to the slide right before this. Essentially what this slide is, yeah, there we go. So this is the current conditions right now. So you'll see everybody can identify where Main Street is. All the buildings are right tight together, zero lot lines. They're all sandwiched together. And then if you go to the next slide, this is how it looks with Jeff Grundall's development and the project we're proposing here, as well as a loose representation of the Steve Brown Apartments. I didn't have the footprint, so please don't take too much stock into that. But what I wanted to do is just illustrate, these are the rooftops that are in Mount Horeb and the impact that this rooftop will have. I think it's consistent with a Main Street development. I think it's consistent with infill and putting business all together along Main Street. There's not a lot of green space. Of course, there's not a lot of green space in a lot of downtown Main Street districts like this. And so I wanted to illustrate this for the commission members and the public as well, so everybody recognize it. Now, moving forward, and I'm going to ask Ben to correct me if I'm wrong on any of these, and please chime in too, because ultimately, I'm going to ask Ben. I just want to make sure that I'm not misstating anything. So we are in the commercial business district, the CB zoning district, and in the CB zoning districts, there are zero setbacks on all four property lines of this parcel. So, in fact, there are build two lines along Main Street, along the west property line on 3rd Street. So essentially what that means is the zoning requires us to build property line to property line on all four sides. The zoning district has a 50-foot height maximum. We're currently now, with the drop in height, we are currently at 41 feet. So we meet that requirement. The CB district requires a mixed use with commercial on the first floor. We achieve that, we meet that requirement. Parking is actually not required in a CB downtown business district. Now, we've obviously been negotiating the parking requirement here with the apartments and the density we're seeking. So that's a subject that we've gone through with the city staff, or village staff, excuse me, and the ratios we have meet those requested ratios. With regards to green space, there is a contradiction in the zoning code, and green space would actually not be required in this downtown CB business district because of the maximum and minimum setback requirements, which essentially require us to go lot line to lot line. So that's how we ended up with this footprint. That's how we ended up with no green space. We meet all of the other zoning requirements, and we're seeking a planned unit development simply because of the apartment units and the quantities there. So I wanted to clarify those items. Jeff, is there anything that you wanted to touch on?
A couple of things as it relates to parking's been brought up a lot, right? And I know that people may or may not like the fact that the village asked us to produce a parking and traffic study, but we did so, and we did so with an engineer that is from a firm that is probably one of the more regarded traffic study engineering firms in the Midwest. And you know, data is their data, their standards are their standards. We don't make the stuff up, and that's why we hired somebody to do it independently. But as it relates to the parking that we have in the building and on the site today, we now have more than one parking spot per bedroom. So the idea that somebody brought up earlier that there's going to be more than one person living in a house with more than one car, we now have more than one parking stall per bedroom. So, and those are all on site in the building. So I don't think we have a parking problem any longer. And for where friends park and visitors park, I don't think there's any other place in town that provides enough parking for every friend and every visitor. And I would suggest that the lot right across the street, which is the Duluth Trading Company lot that becomes public from 5 p.m. to 8 a.m. 7 days a week, could suffice for much of that visitor parking. So we do believe that we've parked the site more than appropriately, and certainly to the level of requirements that the village has had for any other project that's out here in the village. I'd also like to people talk about the height. There's a lot of comments about that. Is there that graphic with the black line on it by chance, Nick? It should be an elevation shot, but it just shows a solid black line. Is there that graphic with the black line on it by chance, Nick? It should be an elevation shot. Yeah, this one too. Just shows a solid black line. Pretty sure it is. Okay, right here. So what I'd like everybody to realize is that this building now that it's down to 3 stories is no taller than the buildings that sit on Main Street today. The municipal building right there, that black line is a level line that shoots straight across that is level with the top of our 3rd floor. So it does not appear to be any larger than most of the buildings. Certainly it's larger than any 2-story building for some portions of it, but this is very representative of what exists in our town today. And, you know, as far as it being one big building versus 4 buildings, yes, it's one building internally, but if we were required to build 4 separate buildings, the zoning code would also require us to build them lot line to lot line to lot line. So those buildings would look identical to what we're proposing to build when I was done if I built them in 4 separate building types. There would be no difference when we're done. They have to be lot line to lot line, they would have to touch. So I'm not understanding the concern necessarily about one big building. And I think Steve illustrated well the mass. It's not much different than anything else downtown as it relates to, if you look at the buildings that are connected from the municipal building all the way down to the Duluth Trading Company store. Those are all connected. It's all one roof essentially. And they're all wall to wall. So we do believe we have accomplished one of the goals that were set out for us here last month and over the last 4 or 5 months, both in height, density, mass, and everything else. Craig, is there anything you want to talk about as far as the both in height, density, mass?
Yeah. Hi there, Craig Enzenroth from Gleaning Companies here. At the last meeting, we furnished a vehicle study from 3 of our projects. And if we take that and use that data to come up with projected vehicles, occupants, you know, we're looking at a total of between 48 and 56 occupants. And if you look at it just based on our Hoff project that we constructed at 44, we have 1.1 persons per unit at that Hoff building. And we have 1.1 vehicles as well. So if I take the vehicles at 1.1, we're at 56 vehicles. So I keep hearing, there's going to be 80 people living here. There will not be 80 people living there, I guarantee. The amount of vehicles that are projected, I think, is realistic based on our projections. And I don't see that there's this issue that everybody's saying that we don't have enough parking, we're going to have too many occupants. The stats that we look at don't bear that out. Issue that everybody's saying that we don't have enough parking.
The other comments I heard a lot about was just safety and access. I can tell you that the representatives of the Mount Horeb Fire Department have been involved in this project since we conceptualized it many months ago. They're involved in the very first meeting. They've opined on this project and its access and their ability to service it, and they don't have any concerns with it that we've been notified of today. Many months ago, they're involved in the very first meeting.
No, at this time, public comment is over, so it'll just be planning commission and applicant discussion. Thank you. All right, any other comments or questions from applicants? So, just be planning commission. Okay, staff. I know Ben and Nick, you guys probably have a few things to address or follow up on before we get planning commission stuff. Any other comments or questions from applicants?
Yeah, I think Steve accurately depicted or described the zoning situation and what we're looking at. There's 3 total applications before you today in respect to this project. One is the general development plan, that is the zoning step. The second is the CSM, certified survey map, which would be to combine the existing 3 lots into one. And then there's the SIP, or the specific implementation plan, and that is the site plan and the details. So all 3 of those items are on the agenda this evening. That is a deviation from the last meeting in respect to, we were only looking at the general development plan and the certified survey map. So I wanted to point that out for you all. In respect to the ordinance and what I have before you as the conditions in respect to the meeting or the staff report that I put together, there are 9 total items listed there. The one major change I wanted to point out for you is one less flexibility is being requested as part of the plan development, and that is the floor area ratio with the reduction of the floor is now within the standard of the central business zoning district. The other 2 flexibilities are still required, as noted by the applicant. One being for the number of dwelling units in the building, and the second, that the commercial apartment land use is listed as accessory. In this instance, we'd be proposing that to be principal in order to accommodate the proposed project. Additionally, I had reflected in my previous conditions that there would be more bicycle parking required. That has been increased, as it's been mentioned throughout today. So I just wanted to highlight those various items before we get into discussion. But those were the major changes. Obviously, we've hashed out and discussed a lot of the other changes that have been made by the applicant. So I don't need to go through each of those individually. Just wanted to make note of the things in respect to the code and those listed conditions that we discussed at length in the last go-around.
Nick, anything you want to address?
One thing that was brought up frequently during the public comment section was the idea of a referendum. We cannot do a referendum on a project like this. Referendums are limited to policy items and budget items. Like they mentioned, the school items. The school does those for spending items. When they need to exceed their levy limits for spending, that's when they go out for a referendum. It'd be similar for the village. If we want to exceed our levy limit for a spending item, we would go out for a referendum for that. We did that for the golf course. It's the most recent one in my memory. we also did one where we were petitioned by a group on the research animal facility. That was a petition done, but that was a policy item, not a project. We cannot do a referendum on a specific project. I had a lot of notes. I think that was kind of the big one I wanted to address. I think Ben covered the rest.
Okay. One note too, from some public comments, I know as staff was saying stuff down, and I was too, some of the items go kind of beyond, go into Plan Commission stuff, but also beyond the scope of what Plan Commission will review and discuss. I know, so committee work will be continuing down on some of those items for future items like that. Just wanted to make a note of that, continue to see engagement on different items as they come up. So as Ben said, we have 3 items for consideration. As normal practice, we kind of go through each one by one. We have the general development plan first. Basically, on each of these, we're making a recommendation to the board, and so that's kind of what we do on that. So, oh yeah, I'm sorry. Yep, I know we have one more staff member who wanted to update as well, based on public comments. You have to steal a microphone from someone. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Yep, I know we have one more staff member who wanted to update.
Questions coming back from somebody else to you?
I just had a couple of quick comments where planning and Plan Commission's work intersects with economic development. And one of the concerns or thoughts that I had as I was listening to all of this, and Steve pointed out all the rooftops along Main Street and the density that's there, the 0 lot line requirement. If we were to have a fire in downtown, God forbid, and fire jumped to 3, 4 of those buildings, and pretty soon you have a gaping hole that needs to be rebuilt, please consider the zoning requirements when thinking about building height and things like that, because you're going to be requiring somebody, the building that would have to be built there would be economically infeasible if there are too many limits put on its size and scope. Okay, well, then you'll end up with big gaps in your downtown. And the building stock is aging. I've seen communities where buildings have fallen down, whether it's a water main break, the damage leads to another building, pretty soon there are 2 or 3 of them, and then you have a hole. And so when you're considering zoning and applying the code, the density has to be there to be economically feasible. What's happened with this building now is at 4 stories, it was economically feasible. It's becoming economically infeasible. Any more restrictions or any more requests to cut it back, it's going to be economically infeasible, which then leads to a request for support. And so I just wanted to make the point that where you can be cognizant of that, it would be really important to understand the impact of zoning limitations on the economic feasibility of a property. I just want to make one other quick comment related to loading and unloading. My daughter lives in a building that has 142 units in it, and all the parking is underground, and we completely moved her in from within the building. We drove our vehicle in with our trailer, and we unloaded her inside. So I don't see an issue with loading and unloading for moving in and out.
All right, thank you, Kristen. So, actually, before any discussion, I guess, any burning items from commission members you want to address from public comments? Or if not, then kind of move on to go into questions for staff or for, any burning items from commission members you want to address from public comments? Or if not, then kind of move on to go into
So, I'm not great at math, but so I tried to do this several times over again. After you account for, with my crude renderings here, math, after you account for the stacked stalls, I think it's 42 bedrooms or 33 stalls left. After you account for the stacked stalls. So that doesn't equal the 1.2 that we're looking for. And I think that's been overlooked in this packet of information, that those stacked stalls do take away from, even though they're ingenious devices, in some ways, they take away from the overall units. I just wanted to bring that up unless somebody else has math that is different, which is very likely.
In some ways, they take away from the overall units. I just wanted to bring that up unless somebody else has math.
Does interest in addressing that, or?
Okay. Yeah, so there are 6 stacked stalls within the building, and those will be assigned to the 2-bedroom units. And so a single unit, 6 stacked stalls, family, couple, whoever lives there would occupy those 2 stalls that are stacked. And so that's the intention for those. So if you look at it solely by unit counts, we're fine. If you look at it by bedrooms and understand that there are 2 bedrooms that are occupying those stacked units, then we feel that's a fine exercise as well. I should also note that in the letter of intent that we had issued, it was brought up, there was a resident that made a comment about it earlier tonight. There were 2 examples given of properties one in Middleton, one in Madison. And the reason that example was given was simply because of these stacked stalls, and just as an illustration that it is done elsewhere and it is done successfully. So that was the intent of stating that in the LOI. So I'll regret that illustration that it is done elsewhere and it is done successfully. So that was the intent of stating that in the LOI.
All right, planning commission members, other questions, comments?
I'll go ahead. I just kept hearing the word safety again and again tonight. And so, again, as a resident of the north side of the village, I do have some safety concerns with the footprint as it is still, especially with it backing up to the alley and not having any kind of extra space to deal with deliveries or emergency vehicles or trash. So I don't know how we can address that tonight, but I would love to see more of a specific plan of safety and how we can address pedestrians, 3rd Street traffic increase, and definitely the exit from the alley onto 2nd Street. I know it's a blind drive turn. I've lived there for 20 years, and I'm very careful when I could pass there even in a car, much less walking, because people can't see. So I would like to propose that there was a safety study that we could reassure citizens that we're addressing those concerns. I did specifically, I was not able to attend the safety meeting this past week, 2 nights ago on Monday, but I did specifically send an email to the chief to address some of these concerns because it was on the agenda, and I know a lot of people were there expressing safety concerns because of this project. So I think that it's just one point that we should address. Because it was on the agenda, and I know a lot of people were there expressing safety concerns because of this project. So I think that it's just one point.
Other direct questions on items? Comments? Yeah, direct questions or to applicant or staff on anything that you need more information on? Okay. All right, so seeing that there's no other questions, kind of want to open this stuff up. I do want to see, kind of make anything for this development concept that we first saw. We've seen, public input has been beneficial to this. I think we continue to see that. At some point, the planning commission, like Nick said, we can't do a referendum. We need to decide as a planning commission and then make the Gresham Village Board as to, how to proceed on stuff. We've heard kind of 3 basic thoughts since this section of this. Build it, change stuff to build it, and don't build it. And so I think there's enough information where each planning commission member has some solid legal and appropriate background information to go through this stuff appropriately. So that's always been a goal, to make sure that planning commission members have the information they need on items to make the decision based on how they feel and stuff like that. So all right. So going back to Planner Orr's recommendations, he says we have 9. The 9th would be any additional information on there And so I want to ask, as I did last time, if there are specific items that people do not agree that this plan meets, or would not want to approve that waiver, have a discussion. So, I guess starting at number one, are there any commission members who feel that the fee does not meet the comprehensive plan purpose of the code? Just so you know, this particular item, this is something we have in all projects. It's not a waiver. It's an item that we need to make for a recommendation of the board. So it's kind of it's a statutory requirement. This is something we have in all projects. It's not a waiver.
To clarify, these are the GDP.
These are the GDP. Yep, only going to go over GDP.
I have some clarification questions on specific.
Yeah, so we'll cover the SIP later. These are the GDP. Yep, only going to go over GDP.
I have some clarification questions on specific.
Yeah, so we'll cover the SIP later. Okay, back to my question.
Is there a certain page we're looking at? Is it 161?
Page 161. Okay, back to my question. I'm using this as our template for action item discussion tonight.
And you want to do them point by point, not just a motion?
I mean, I would take anything, but we can take a motion or a sub-motion, or not sub-motion, but, you know, I want to ensure that we have enough information. As I said last time, any recommendation that goes to the village board, there's some context behind it as well. I want to ensure that we have enough information. As I said last time, any recommendation that goes to the village.
I feel like we've all had an opportunity along the way to look at a lot of these individual points. There's different ways to do this. I would make a motion to deny the GDP. All had an opportunity along the way to
So before we get a second on that, I always do want to recommend the plan commission any motions are not negative motions, because I just say not negative. So any motions would be for action instead of not taking action. It's something our legal department.
So you can
prefers.
reword it? How would I reword that?
Basically, it would be worded to recommend approval of the GDP, and then anyone who would be against that would vote against it.
I'm not comfortable making that motion, somebody else can.
It would be worded to. Well, we do have a motion on the table, and is there a second to that? Anyone who would be against that would vote for the denial. I would say. Well, we do have a motion on the table. Hearing no second. Okay. To deny. So, again, our legal team hates us. We're just not a fan of government. It makes sense for staff to deny. So, again, so would you prefer to withdraw that motion? Or not? So again, I encourage this body to avoid negative motions.
I don't understand, is that a law, or how is that? Why are you saying that? Where's that written?
Just based on best practices for municipal use.
I've never heard that as long as I've been on a committee, people deny things, I don't know.
Just based on best practices.
If that's the way it has to be, I would withdraw my motion, somebody else can positively say something.
Okay. No, I understand, it's just it's a thing. No, I understand. So Jesse, since you made the motion, I'll ask you, do you want to have discussion on it, or would you like to just put a motion?
I'm confused, like, I made the motion, you told me I can't make the motion. So
No, I
I'm
said
gonna proceed.
it's recommended not to.
What? I will not make a motion to approve it, so somebody else can do that if they'd like to.
So you're withdrawing your motion?
I don't understand what code you're pointing to that says I can't deny something. Somebody else can do that if they'd like to.
So this just, Nick, you want to?
I don't think it's a code. I think you're welcome to make that motion. It's just a recommendation that came out from the League of Wisconsin Municipalities at one point, so.
Well, I don't want to, I withdraw my motion, somebody else, I'll just do it backwards way, I guess.
You're free to make the motion if you want to. It's just recommended not to make a motion.
It's just best practices.
So if you're welcome to carry forward with that motion.
I will withdraw my motion, I'll wait and vote on the positive process.
Again, public, thank you. I'm sorry, that's not appropriate. And so, again, thank you. Your time is done. Thank you. Again, thank you. Again, please be respectful of the body conducting the business. Thank you. Again, please be respectful of the suggesting is withdrawn our business. Apologize for the confusion. I think we can follow up on more education experience from that. The future we need for stuff, so thank you. Apologize for the confusion. I think we can follow up on more education experience from that. So I guess for the body, does anyone want to make a motion in anything, or do you want to go through stuff? Go through items. So I guess for the body, does anyone want to make a motion in anything?
I'd rather go through discussion points if we're going to. I don't feel like we're ready to make a motion if we just withdrew one. So can we please just go through the points and have a discussion? If we're going to, I don't feel like
we can.
Would that be okay? Withdrew one. So can we please just go through the and have a discussion?
So we'll go through the process of that. Number one, plan commission termination. Pros GDP is consistent with the adopted comprehensive plan. Does anyone disagree with that? Item. Number one, plan commission termination, pros GDP is consistent with the adopted comprehensive plan. Does anyone disagree with that? Okay. So, does anyone disagree with that item? First thing or no? Okay. So in the second one, plan commission termination, pros GDP is consistent with the PD criteria for approval, section 1741, as regards to the 50% open space. So in the second one, plan commission. Does anyone disagree with the waiver for the 50% open space?
We skipped past one already?
I have several times, but we can, if you have a concern, we can bring this back up. The waiver for the 50% open space.
Did you call a straw poll or something?
No, I was asking if anyone had a issue, concern with that.
Well, I believe that this project does not meet the intent of the PDD.
Okay. No, I was asking if anyone had an issue with that. Let's have some discussion.
This project does not meet the intent of the PDD.
Okay. With that, let's have some discussion.
This project inherently does not align with the PDD criteria, concluding the first one is a concern for preservation of natural features and open space. It does not meet our residential density limits. It arguably creates a traffic and parking demand that's incompatible with the existing or proposed facilities. And I don't, on economic feasibility and impact, I haven't heard if it's financially feasible without asking for village support yet, so I'm not sure if it is economically feasible. I guess I don't have enough information to say that. And the 15% would not be met. Asking for village support yet, so I'm not sure if it is economically feasible. I guess I don't have enough information to say that. And the 15% would not be met.
Any comments from planning commissioners?
Can I help clarify for everybody?
Yeah.
The point number 2 is the 15% green open space. Currently, as a central business district, there is no requirement for green space as it stands right now. Is that correct?
Yes.
I just want everybody to be clear that central business district does not require any green space. If we were to approve the GDP, then we have got the 15% that we're dealing with. So I just wanted everybody to be clear, currently downtown central business district does not require any green space. That is because it is supposed to be business line streets with 0% lot line. So just so everybody's clear with the existing zoning, and that's not changing going forward for central business district.
That seems irrelevant since the PDD is allowing us to change zoning restrictions and guidelines and relaxing other things, so I don't know why cherry pick that one as being not appropriate when we're...
I just wanted to make sure people were clear with what the current zoning was, and then that, yes, if we approve the GDP, we are supposed to have the 15%.
Yes.
Yeah, so just wanted to make sure everybody was clear. And then that, yes, if we approve the DEP, we are.
Those are accurate statements in relationship to there are no existing base requirements right now from downtown. Central Business District is allowed to be 100% paved essentially, and lines are outlined within the plan development zoning district criteria. It requires 15% open space as a provision of that process in that zoning district. There have been a total of 5 planned developments that have occurred downtown. Not one of them have been required to meet this requirement because it's counterintuitive to the base standards of the Central Business District, the purpose statement of the Central Business District, and the reflected nature of what is in the existing Central Business District. So that is why I have recommended that we continue the practice of consistently not applying this standard to downtown because of the unique setting that it is and because of the precedent that has already been set. Now, if you choose as the Plan Commission to deviate from that recommendation, you can do that. Because of the unique setting that it is and because of the precedent that has already been set. Now, if you choose
Thank you,
as the Plan Commission to deviate from that recommendation, you can do that.
May I speak?
Please.
Okay. I feel the project relies on multifamily housing as a principal use, which is not permitted in the city district and represents a substantial departure from the district commercial first purpose. It is on.
Peggy, hold it closer to your mouth.
It was almost in my mouth, right? Okay, you can hear me now. Okay. The project relies on multifamily housing as a principal use, which is not permitted in the CB district and represents a substantial departure from the district's commercial first purpose. Also, the proposal does not provide exceptional public amenities or improvements commensurate with the degree of zoning flexibility that is requested. Also, the proposal does not provide significant public opposition, concerns about parking, traffic circulation, and neighborhood compatibility indicate that the project does not satisfy criteria requiring minimal adverse impact. Must begin considering public transportation as we put this all together. Approving a planned development with this level of deviation would set an undesirable precedent for the future large-scale residential proposals within the downtown area. And I just want to mention that I had an opportunity to observe the safety committee on Monday night, and I found that hugely beneficial. I can't find my notes. I was especially taken by Phil Leavenworth, who was here, but he's gone now, talking about the impact on the future. And if we look back 20, 25 years ago, about what our town was like, it's changed dramatically. So we should be looking forward 20, 25 years, 50 years as well. And even if the traffic patterns are acceptable today with the traffic 20, 25 years, 50 years as well. What? And what's the word? Even if the traffic result patterns, what works for 2025 might not work for 2030 or 2040. So we should consider the future. And the last thing is the alley is not a street. What works for 2025 might not work for 2030 or 2040. So we should consider the future. And the last thing is the alley is not a street.
So when this property got put up for sale, I knew that this was the project that we were going to see, or some form of a project just like this. And I think the property having the whole Main Street frontage as the commercial, yes, some form of project just like this. And I think the economic feasibility of the project, it needs the residential to make it function. The whole thing behind the 15% is what I think a lot of us are getting stuck on. The whole thing behind the 15% is this particular project, I think the congestion, the parking issue, I think is very simple. It's basically the same as the Steve Brown project, isn't it? At the 1.2.
Correct.
Basically the same as the Steve Brown project, isn't it? Okay.
The Steve Brown project had a higher parking ratio than this proposed project does, meaning they had more parking spaces per unit than was proposed. The proposed situation that you have before you had 1.25 spaces per dwelling unit is more in line with what was approved for the Hoff Mall project. Situation.
And this is more in line with what we proposed
spaces per, as it is currently drafted in the zoning code, yes. But
the new zoning code.
Yes. As it is currently.
Along with the new zoning code, I know with we talked about this at the special plan commission meeting about that 50% on the PD, the court basically closing that gap or quirk, if you will, on that. So we talked about this at the special plan commission meeting about that 50%.
I'm not stuck on the 15%. It's just one of many things we aren't meeting for the PDD, which cumulatively tells me that we're misusing the PDD. I'm not stuck on the 15%. It's just one of many things we aren't meeting for the PDD, which cumulatively tells me that we're misusing the PDD.
So I think we're probably rather than go through each item, we could perhaps entertain a motion to approve, discuss items with that, and then vote how we want to entertain a motion to any approve, discuss items with that, and then vote. That's another way we can address this. How we want to entertain.
Yeah, so the village board doesn't necessarily need to know each of these elements, but they do need to know our final recommendation for the GDP. Okay, and if we're going to grant any modifications. The village board doesn't necessarily under each of these elements, but they do need and the village board is going to have the final say. And if we're going to grant any CSM and the specific implementation.
Correct.
Okay, so I can talk maybe briefly, generally about the project, and then I can give you my thoughts on the GDP, and maybe we'll move on to the CSM. Hopefully the CSM. I can talk maybe briefly, generally about the project. I support the project for many of the same reasons that I had during the last meeting, primarily housing, economic development, and I like the idea of infill development. It is, I think, really important that downtowns and growing regions continually evolve and redevelop. I think it is probably outside of the control of Mount Horeb. We have regional pressures in housing and development. These are things that are not of our own making, certainly. We just get to choose how to respond. And I think that there is a lot of thought. I'm just really happy to see the public participation in this. We had more downloads of the comprehensive plan in the last couple months than we probably had in the years preceding. You're all zoning experts by this time. I wish folks stayed. It's late meetings, and those are really tough, especially like a couple months than we probably. But I really appreciate all the comments. We've all read so many comments. Sat through a lot of meetings, reviewed a lot of different drawings, so I appreciate just the participation. But I think how we respond is really all. We just can't choose and pretend like there's not these outside pressures that are causing development. So this specific project that's in front of us, though, I think it's a quality project. I think the aesthetics itself, I think reasonable people can certainly disagree on what's an attractive building. It is really, really difficult to design by committee. It is possible to design by consensus. I think the proposal includes elements from downtown. It borrows design elements that exist downtown right now. I think that's really important. I think it tries really hard to do the right thing. But I think, We're just not going to get a significant amount of rebound on specific design elements. So I think it's attractive, and I think one of the comments I made early on is it makes multiple, it makes one building look like multiple buildings. There are setbacks, there are, I think, modifications to the facade on all the different sizes, and then there are design elements that folks ask for into the public meetings to make it look a little bit unique, like it is the only building like it. So I think aesthetically it meets those. I think specific to the 15%, it's in the central business district, which doesn't require any green space. I think it is important that absolutely that the village have a lot of green space. We just bought an enormous park. There's going to be a lot of green space outside of town. I know that's not downtown, but on a community-wide basis, we did have a lot. There is some element of green space in downtown, but it is certainly downtown is supposed to be impervious. It's in the central business, and we waited that requirement for, so I'm okay with that one. In terms of housing, I think the changes that were made, it just makes sense. It's a better building now than it was a month ago. Housing, it's smaller, it has fewer units, there are going to be fewer parking issues. I do have some other issues I mentioned on the SIP that I do want to talk about and see some changes, some modifications recommended. Specific to the commercial apartments and housing, I think that's one element that the new code, this is a code we're working under right now, it's 50 years old, and it just doesn't work for today's modern communities. It has to be updated, and we've been working on that for months. I came in late in the process. I think you probably have only been on the commission maybe a quarter of the time that the code has been reviewed. But it is a much better code. It's a better code for not just developers, it's a better code for the community. It grants flexibility where there have been problems in the past, and then it restricts in other areas as well, where there's been kind of a mismatch. So I think it is a better code, and I hope folks continue to participate in that process and stay involved. And the last thing I'll say, just on the general comments that I had prepared, is there really is a downside to building outside. It is absolutely true that building outside of town means more streets to plow and pave. It means more leaves to pick up. It means more traffic with people driving downtown or other places. Sprawl and building elsewhere there is a downside to that, and maybe in some cases that's worth it to build somewhere else. But there is absolutely downside. I don't think we can ignore that. And Horeb doesn't have a lot of outside downtown. It's a pretty hilly area. We're restricted by the topography. But there absolutely is a downside. And so that's what I'm going to say on that. I have some other comments on the GP and the SIP. But I otherwise support projects. So I move to approve the GDP.
I will second.
Definitely want to open up the discussion.
So I move to approve the GDP.
So for comments for anyone or questions, and you want that?
I would like to make a statement.
Yeah.
Before we call.
Please.
It's tempting to accept this design iteration. It's come a long way. But both the community and the Plan Commission have had a lot of time to think about this project. As evidenced by the community activism, this project has revitalized the long-standing interest in and support for careful stewardship of our downtown landscape. It happens to coincide with the outcome of the village's zoning code rewrite process. As a proponent of preservation and a member of the Historic Preservation Commission, which was also somewhat revitalized recently, I was heartened by the Plan Commission's recent recommendations to lower street height and the addition of required stepbacks. Not to mention the retention of a robust and thoroughly considered downtown mixed-use zoning district, specifically intended to protect the heart of historic Mount Horeb. I believe this PUD is not appropriate for this project at this site. It is not publicly beneficial when all is considered. For that reason, I will vote no. I think the proposed freshly updated zoning code is a reflection of our community's vision for Mount Horeb's future. This project deviates from this vision, which we have just put in stone
or made a step towards that in the recent weeks.
Vision for Mount Horeb's future, this project.
I'm not comfortable with compromising from the beginning.
Put in stone.
This project would not meet our just established downtown vision, which we, as this group, worked on really hard and came to a consensus, I thought, of what we wanted. And now we're going to compromise before we
Really hard. And came to a consensus, I thought, of what we wanted.
and now we're going to compromise before we
Well, I guess my comments tonight are, again, as I said last time, in support of this project, and I think I heard a lot tonight about it should be somewhere else. Putting it somewhere else doesn't negate that those people will be coming into downtown, that it is traffic into downtown. So if we build it out by Summit and First Choice Dental, is it gonna be a room full of people whose addresses are from that area, which is where I happen to live? So does that impact me? And because I choose to live there and not in the historic downtown, does it mean that I should have the traffic in my neighborhood? I don't know. I already have a lot of traffic in my neighborhood that drives very fast down my street. So I think it's just really important to remember that we need to continue to grow. I looked at our average population and what the growth is, and it actually, like, my daughter is the smallest kindergarten class that they had had in years when she started. The biggest class had just graduated, and she's the smallest class that they've had, I think it was in 10 years. She's in second grade now. So if that's any indication, it's trending downwards. Less people are moving here. Also today, I thought a lot about it, and so I Googled, why do people come to Mount Horeb? Just to see what comes up. And actually, it talks a lot about, it says it's highly Scandinavian heritage, stop by, take a selfie with many of the trolls. It talks a lot about the outdoor things, the trails, the green space that we do have. I guess the reminder too is that currently, this is privately held property. This isn't green space for the city. The village doesn't own this property, so nobody in theory should be on this property using it as green space. It's an empty lot right now. Not anything else. It's an empty lot that's not generating anything. We have the opportunity to turn these spaces into something that will benefit our community and our economy. It will increase our property tax revenue from this location and what's going to be built. There are a lot of positives to it. I think that we have to remember too, under the current place guidelines and the zoning, Jeff could build a 4-story office building with no parking on that space today, under the current zoning laws that we have. I would prefer it is a commercial space that could be utilized for revitalizing the downtown and continuing to build the downtown and bringing people to the downtown versus an office building, which will have more people, which will not have parking, which will be lot line to lot line, which will not have green space, any of it. So I think it's important to remember that the alternative to this is empty space, which will not have parking, which will be lot line, and that's it. And what is it? Then what do we have?
Why is the alternative empty space? We're not saying you can't build anything there, we're saying you can't.
Well, right, so if this isn't the right project, what is?
Something that fits the zoning code?
But today, he could build an office building there in the zoning code today.
I guess if that's financially viable, we could see that plan.
Exactly. But I think he wouldn't have to get any waivers or anything else. It would be lot line to lot line. There'd be no green space. There'd be no parking.
If that's financially viable, we could see that plan.
So what
That hasn't come forward because it's, I believe it's not.
So what will be the right thing to put in that space?
Well, you just sat through the planning commission discussion with us about the downtown zoning, where we visioned what we wanted for those spaces, so that's what we want.
Well, what we want and what is reality are two different things, and what anybody can economically afford to do.
So you voted for a zoning code you don't believe is economically viable?
I don't believe that too many restrictions in a zoning code is beneficial.
You voted for it.
I voted for it because it didn't matter, it still would have gone through.
Great.
Then when we voted on that zoning code for Main Street, was it a 3-story with a step back? And it was an approved mixed use? So essentially the only thing Jeff would have to do in the new zoning code is add this step back.
It's 50 feet of commercial on the bottom space.
Approved mixed use. 50 feet you probably have to add on to the 13. is really not that far off from that.
Commercial, then great. That would, if it fits code, then that's what we have to accept.
Sarah?
I wanted to back up because I should have started here, but that, again, I appreciate everybody's comments, and the public engagement has been incredible, and I haven't seen this kind of engagement in 20 years that I've lived here. So thank you, everybody, for participating, and it's been good. And I also want to thank Jeff for listening to our comments the last time and making significant changes that we specifically called out, because he did address every single one of those. One comment, well, like I said before, there was a few comments that struck me as repeating, obviously some certain issues, but one comment in particular said, I'm almost there, and I am almost there. So I am supportive of this kind of development downtown. I also believe in infill. I believe that people want to live in a vibrant downtown. I believe we need housing downtown, and we do need to address that. It's going to continue to come up in our village. This isn't going to go away. So we are going to see other proposals and other projects come down the pipe. How we handle this, like someone else said, is important, and how we control what goes up in this space on our main street is important. And from the very beginning, I said we need to take our time. And I am almost there. I think we have got something more workable in place here. I think we just need to continue to make some improvements. So I wanted to address that we were in agreement. We had a special meeting to review zoning 2 weeks ago, and we did talk about what the future zoning would be like, and we made adjustments so that the height would be 40 feet in our downtown, and we would have a 3rd floor setback. Now, I understand that there is some economic viability possibly to that recommendation, and that possibly needs to get discussed. And I do think we need to have more cross-committee conversations, because I don't think that's happening right now. So whatever the CDA would recommend, I think we need to have that representation at our meetings and have these conversations about viability, economic viability, so that we are all on the same page, because I'm not quite sure we are at the moment. That being said, we recommended a 3rd floor setback, and I do think that would be appropriate for this space. I think 3 stories and where you've landed is accommodating for a downtown. I am very concerned about the alley, about vehicles using the alley more than it currently is used. Everybody keeps saying it's not a street, but right now, many people said they cut through the alley, so they are using it as a street. So we're kind of conflicting in our messages of wanting to use it, but it needs to be a safe place, bottom line. So the alley should be safe. I think it is a big change to have that entire block filled in with 0 setback. And I think that is a concern, and it does create some safety issues. So that's where I stand right now. I think if we need to talk more about economic viability, that this should be possibly tabled again so that we can have those conversations. If that 3rd floor setback is something that doesn't make sense in the new proposed zoning. So I just wanted to clarify that and share my perspective. Thanks. Setback is something that doesn't make sense in the new proposed zoning. So.
Yeah, Sarah, thank you very much for those comments. That you hit a lot of points that I've been thinking about a lot as well. Speaking specifically of 3rd floor setback, it was a really good discussion that we had at the Planning Commission. Under the new code, it wasn't something that I supported because of a number of different reasons. I thought 40 feet at the essentially the roof line was appropriate. That's what is downtown now in many places. So I thought it was okay to continue that. I do have concerns about economic feasibility. If we can't build something new, construction is incredibly expensive right now. And If we can't build something new, then there is a need to do so because the building is no longer safe, it needs to be taken down, or it comes down because of some unknown reason. That's a possibility. So I think having too many restrictions, I don't know that the code does that, it's going to be project specific, but I do have concerns about that in any downtown. Having too many story buildings are expensive to build, any commercial building is expensive to build with all of the commercial building code requirements. So adding on these additional restrictions, permitting fees, multiple meetings, design review, things like that makes projects less and less economically feasible. And when projects are economically less feasible, they don't even get proposed in the first place. And downtown Mount Horeb is no longer a good place to invest in. So I am concerned about that. So thank you very much for bringing that up. And then on the SIP, I mentioned it multiple times, I have some comments about safety as well on the site, specifically for the car traffic. I won't get to that, but we're talking about the I have some comments about safety.
I was actually just looking at my computer, just reloading it, hates big files, but I was trying to go back and look at the front facade, and the third floor is set, if we think of this building as four, four buildings in one. I actually like the idea of the brown section in the middle to be 3 stories of the facade. I wouldn't mind seeing the one on the end that has the bigger balcony. If that unit was stepped back, I'd be completely happy with that. That way the majority of the building would be stepped back on the 3rd floor. That's a small little design, I guess. I almost think you want the 3rd floor on a couple of segments of the building just to make it different. I almost think you want the 3rd floor.
Yeah, I think some of that comes up in SIP discussion. Just some comments, and again, I can't go through everything just because there's so much, it's late, we still have more to talk about on items. You know, I appreciate what came in last time. I didn't support, the project that came in last time. I thought it needed commercial. I was concerned about the density on items, and so it helped mitigate these issues. And so I think you addressed those. Some of the items on there, I think traffic and safety is a larger issue beyond this project. It can't be resolved here, but obviously part of the discussion, as it should be. That's also part of the kind of SIP as well. Some items that we can make recommendations to the board on, regardless of where this goes. As it should be. If anything, I think what we see in the revisions tonight is that the government process it has its issues and benefits. Designed by committee, as well as just the feedback to there are things that we did not like about it, and there are all things that some of us did like about it. It's from someone who from the board level, I'm quite a look beyond just the planning commission. It's an all-encompassing. That's kind of why I always go back to the comp plan and some of these other plans that we've done stuff, and so that was set up the path forward. As I've said in the past, we're kind of in the implementation phase of these plans. And so, and that's where it gets hard. Making the plans are easy, it's implementing them are difficult. Not everyone agrees with the plan in the start, and not everyone agrees with the implementation process. There's still some quirks that have to be worked out regardless of where this goes. But overall, I think with the changes made, I'm more supportive of a positive recommendation of GDP to the village board. I know it won't please everyone, but I think it was made a good faith effort. And I do think that this project would be an asset to the village's commercial base, tourism, and housing needs for the next 100 years. This is not a 40 years this building is torn down because it's junk. This is it's adding to the end of the downtown. It's not a detraction. It's consistent, and I think someone it's 1/4 of, you know, the community downtown. That's awesome from an economic development standpoint, from a design standpoint, from a land use standpoint. The more efficient you can use your land, the better. And so, again, I know not everyone agrees with that, and that's fine, and I appreciate that. It's a different philosophy of thought on items. But I think this is consistent with plans and the type of mixed-use development that the direction of the village has been looking for on items. But I think this is consistent with plans and the type of mixed-use development that. So are there any other comments? All right, so I'd like to do, Gene, I'd like to do a roll call vote on this. So are there any other comments? All right, so I'd like to do, Gene, I'd like to do a roll call vote on this.
Ryan Suzuki,
Yes.
Sarah Best,
No.
Andrew Kidd,
Yes. Yes.
Jill Remet Willis,
Yes.
Destiny
Yes.
Luhoven,
No.
Jill Remet Willis, Ben Brondra,
Yes.
Destiny Luhoven, Peggy Saluka. No. Ben Brondra.
Yeah. So that recommendation will go forward to the board. I think good discussion, lots of stuff that they'll have to consider, discuss, and so I think some more information that we're going to have to discuss in the SIP as well. Continuing on to the next item, consideration of certified survey map to combine lots 208, 214, and 220 East Main Street. Ben, do you want to, Ben Rohr, do you want to kind of explain this process, what exactly this is? 214 and 220 East Main Street?
Yeah, it's obviously would be contingent upon approval of the village board of the GDP to combine the three lots together, because I don't think the applicant would be seeking the certified survey map if that were not the case. Essentially, there are three existing lots today, three parcels. The three of them would be combined, and so the parameters of the general development plan that was just recommended for approval are all based on those three lots being combined together. We do not permit the improvements, such as new buildings, to cross property lines. We want to correct those issues before we create any new ones. And so that's why the certified survey map would be required as a component of this entire project.
So essentially, we'd be looking for a recommendation for approval of the certified survey map, contingent on the GDP.
Say Destiny, change your mind.
Certified survey map, contingent on the GDP. I'm sorry, with the crowd distraction, I kind of lost my thoughts. Where were you? Did you guys hear me on that? Understand? Kind of, we need a motion on the CSM recommendation. Contingent on. Contingent on GDP approval. And we need a motion on the CSM recommendation. Contingent
When again, the GDP approval, the CSM is only going to get processed with the GDP approval by the village board, not by us.
Correct, yeah.
So I make a motion to recommend approval of CSM contingent on the process of the board's GDP approval by the village board.
I second.
Correct. Yeah, so essentially we're saying, unless you approve the GDP, do not approve the CSM.
I second.
All those in favor of that, signify by saying aye. Unless you aye. Opposed, say no.
No.
Okay. All those in favor of that, signify by saying aye. Aye. No, that's fine, thank you, Joe. All right, so last item, the consideration of specific implementation plan, Jeff Arnold. All right, so this is, again, this is new to us for this project, so and you want to kind of walk us through it?
Yeah, so the specific implementation plan has two components to it. One being that it must be consistent with the general development plan. And so sometimes these two steps are handled separately from one another. And so that consistency requirement is obviously something that needs to be met. And so with these two applications occurring simultaneously, we can ensure that that requirement is met. The second component to this is the design review, the site plan, that kind of thing. We're talking about the details in respect to the project and some of the architecture, building materials, the more minute, sort of in the details type of components of the project itself. So there have been a variety of comments that have influenced the building design over time. I don't think we've ever gotten into an in-depth conversation about some of the minute details, so that would be something we'd be looking to do this evening. From the perspective of my review, there are a couple of waivers that I have identified. Those include that there will be removal of existing on-site vegetation, so that would have to be granted a waiver through the design review process. The second would be that there are non-decorative garage doors proposed for access to the in-building parking area and for the garbage pickup and drop-off. That's a requirement that has been waived for several mixed-use and/or apartment buildings with in-building parking. The third would be non-decorative exterior meter boxes. Those are proposed on the northern building facade. Again, this is something that we've run into in a couple of different scenarios with different multifamily structures and the need to put those on the exterior of the structure. And then finally, metal awnings are proposed on the facade, and those are requiring a waiver as it stands right now. There are additional elements that I would like for additional information to be provided by the applicant. Some of those things are related to the roof plans when those are put together and how the mechanical screening is proposed. Some of the more in-depth look at the air vents that are proposed on some of the exterior of the structure and how they're consistent with the building design, obviously signage, and then to identify where the outdoor seating area may be located associated with a future potential restaurant as applicable. I do note a couple of different Plan Commission discussion items that I think warrant discussion. Obviously, the entire thing warrants a discussion, but just focusing on the 27 design criteria. Two of those that I flagged for you, one being the lighting plan currently exceeds the 0.5 foot candles at the property line. As we are all aware, the building is essentially built up to the property line, so it's impossible to meet that standard. So I'd like to discuss that with you all, in addition to the vehicle crossing from 3rd Street into the structure will go across the sidewalk, and I think it warrants a discussion related to that safety component of are there additional steps that could be taken to mitigate the conflicts that could be presented by pedestrians and vehicles in that location. I just also noted two other things. I heard throughout this process the preservation of the trees along Main Street was something that people really wanted to prioritize, and I think something that could be a condition of approval is that the developer employ an arborist during the construction process to take all the steps possible to preserve those trees in the right-of-way because they are valuable to the community, in addition to if there is a sidewalk cafe permit proposed, which would be in front of the building, that they would acquire that. So that is my review in a nutshell in relationship to the waivers, the additional information needed, and some of the discussion items. Obviously, there's a lot more to tackle, so we can open the floor from there.
Before we go into some of this discussion, I want to know if the applicant, a lot of times is similar to school, items that you want to address or have to address, or have any comments on those notes, or as well as anything else within the SIP before we get into items. Before we go into some of this discussion, I want to know if the applicant, a lot of times is similar to school, items that you want to address or have to address, or have any comments on those notes, or as well as anything else within the SIP before
guess the only thing I'll say, just regarding the safety comments, we're 100% behind the safety, but I would have to ask the question, the direction of the traffic flow that we now have with the in only on 3rd Street. So there's nobody coming out of a building where they can blindly cross the sidewalk, or somebody will be walking on that sidewalk. I would ask the question, is there any difference in pulling in that building if it's in only on 3rd Street than if it is pulling into any other business, restaurant, or house driveway where you cross the sidewalk? But you can see a pedestrian. We're happy to paint it, we're happy to do something, but that's maybe just my comment that we don't know what else we can do since we are in only on 3rd Street, and certainly you should see a pedestrian if you are pulling off the street and they're standing on the sidewalk. That's maybe just the one comment I'd have right out of the gate, so.
I think there was one concern raised at the last meeting was blind traffic pulling out of that garage and getting onto the sidewalk. To address that, they proposed that ingress only onto or from 3rd Street into the garage there. I think that does a good job of addressing that. If you can see someone in that circumstance, you probably should traffic pulling out of that.
So I think from the safety aspects on that, looking at the driveway, not the alley, that's the village's responsibility to look at some options on that.
Yes.
But I actually want to coordinate on anything on that. I do like the idea, again, skipping way ahead on that is, I definitely do like the idea of different colored entranceway or sidewalk in there and potential signs. One other safety item, the meter boxes. I was wondering if you could address the meter boxes from the potential vehicle traffic, if those are exposed, or if there's something to be done to help secure them if they are exposed, such as a bollard. One other safety item, the meter boxes.
Yeah, there would certainly be bollards around the meter boxes. We would set them on both ends and then put them in the front in a convenient spot, working with the utility to ensure that we're not blocking them, but absolutely would be protected. Yeah, there would certainly be bollards around the meter boxes. We would set them on both ends and then put them in the front in a convenient spot, working with the utility to ensure that we're not blocking them, but
Address just the trash containment structure and where you have the trash on 3rd Street. Is there any alternative to rethink that trash having to be wheeled across the sidewalk to be dumped? I assume they're going to be dumpsters on wheels that have to come out of that space and then be picked up by a trash truck.
Yeah, certainly. So the reason the dumpsters are located where they are is we've got a grade change of nearly 8 feet from front to back of the building. And so in order to place those dumpsters, really the only location they could be is along one of the property lines. So clearly it's not going to be on Main Street or on the west property line. That leaves 3rd Street or it leaves the alley. And our parking level, in order to access it off of 3rd Street and in that direction the way we have, it's actually 4 feet below the grade of the alley at that location. It does slope back up, but I think the idea there was to disallow garbage trucks to go up and down the alley and empty the dumpsters there. I think that was a comment that we had heard early on at one of the, I don't recall if it was a planning commission meeting or at a community meeting, but that was one of the concerns. So we've located it here. It's within the building, entirely enclosed, obviously, and at a convenient location for the residents to come down and access it from inside the building without having to carry trash on the sidewalk.
I would just like to reconsider if there's any way to access that from the alley, in addition to, I guess I might add additional safety concerns, but if that footprint came back off the alley a little bit, then maybe we would have addressed a few issues and the trash truck could get back there and service that. I just don't know, I foresee trash being strewn on 3rd Street possibly, and I don't think that seems very, that doesn't seem very good. Just a thought. Trash truck could get back there.
Yeah, I don't know that we're opposed to that. I think we placed it there just because of some of the comments we had heard earlier.
Possibly, and I don't think that seems very.
One of the items that was brought up earlier, since we're on the trash topic, is the access of unloading or Amazon delivery trucks, things like that. As I think Kristen had mentioned earlier, a lot of that loading can happen inside the building as far as moving in. My own daughters have done the exact same thing. But what we might suggest, and this is city right away, or village right away, excuse me, so it's village decision, but right near the trash enclosure and south towards the intersection, we might offer up or suggest that the village designate that as loading zone. So that could be something that 15-minute parking, what have you, something like that.
I know the Public Safety Committee, even before this project, had discussed those parking spots on 3rd Street right there, and along everything close to the intersections along Main Street. And so that would have been one of my recommendations, is converting that into loading zone for flexibility, as well as the primary safety of visibility from 3rd Street.
Now, if that were to be the case, would that also help with the trash removal and truck parking and the trash out? Yes, I know.
Converting that into loading zone
Question.
for flexibility, as well as
I guess if there were to be a loading zone on 3rd Street, it would have to be on the right side of the street, correct? Along the building.
Correct.
How are those trucks going to get to that? So they've got to somehow come through the alley and make a right. They can't turn onto 3rd Street and then make a U-turn right there. So
I wouldn't know if they're servicing other parts of the village or the north side of the village when they come up 3rd Street.
how are those trucks going to
I
get?
don't know how they do it today, right?
They've got
So
to somehow come through the alley.
how do they service the chamber today, right? I mean,
Can't
that's right
turn
across
onto
the street.
3rd Street and then make a U-turn right there. Possibly. The chamber has a driveway on Main Street that they possibly could
Right,
turn.
still
through.
asking, I don't know the answer, so.
Yeah, I mean, there's delivery trucks that deliver all over Main Street, right? And so they're stopping on South 2nd Street to deliver to some cafe. They're stopping in the middle of the street. So I recognize that deliveries happen all over the village currently, and we just adjust. And it happens usually in the middle of the day.
I think as it relates to trash, I guess is what I'm saying, is garbage and the ability for a truck to stop and unload that trash is the topic we're on. Specifically, I would, if that was a loading zone, I would provide space for them to be secure and be there and have the ability to do their job and be out in minutes it takes them. But we're happy to look at other solutions. We just, as Steve mentioned, our challenge with the alley side is that our parking level is 4 feet below the alley. So accessing the dumpster inside the building there would be 4 feet below the alley. We're happy to look at other solutions. We just, as Steve mentioned, our challenge with the alley side is that.
other items. SIP, I know, Ben, you have to.
Yeah, thank you. A couple sort of functional items and then some safety items. I know it's late, I'm going to try to be quick, but this is the first time we've seen the SIP. I think we need to do our due diligence and make sure we take the time to do it right. I'd like to know a little bit more about the lighting. I understand, that's a couple sort of, has to be lit for safety reasons, for functional reasons, especially on the back alley. There's a home really close, and I know we have a lighting plan, but I am not a lighting site plan expert, and I don't know what all the numbers mean exactly, and if we could just look at that quick and you could explain, especially on the back alley, the applicant or Ben, if you have some feedback on that would be helpful. I just want to make sure that that's not an intrusive lighting situation going into the immediate neighbor. If we could just look at that quick and
Just I'm more concerned in the south, obviously, because that's where the neighborhood would be, as opposed to
I just want to make sure that.
I mean, sorry, the north, instead of the south.
Yeah.
The south is a separate issue.
The alley, so to the north. Sorry.
More concerned in the south, obviously.
I can address that if you'd like. So first of all, the strategy with the lighting is to use all cut-off light fixtures. as Ben had noted earlier, we're right up on the property line, so anything we do is going to shed light across the property line. In the case of the alley on the north side of the building, we've really got a couple of things going on. First of all, at the exit door, which is farther west off the screen there, the exit door and the garage door exiting onto the alley required by code egress lighting. So there's going to be emergency egress lighting there at the doorways, at every doorway, for code reasons. The other thing we did is we introduced some smaller light fixtures along the back wall, and that's really for safety and security purposes. A little concerned about it getting too dark, and I recognize that we're trying to balance light shed versus safety and security. So those are fixtures that I don't believe we are dead set on keeping, but at the same point, we thought that they were appropriate, and smaller light fixtures that would not shed a lot of light, but at least provide some ambient safety lighting. All of the light fixtures are cut off. They are, I guess, compliant with the village's code regarding that. So.
But Steve, the scale on here, you added the property line, so that's the dashed boundary. And then in terms of the distance of those numeric values that are shown on the photometric plan, I think I measured that to be 20 feet. Does it sound familiar to you? So basically the extent of all of these numbers are approximately 20 feet in each direction.
Yeah, and I think that's accurate.
Okay, so Ben, to help your question, the lighting values that we would otherwise allow is the maximum of 0.5 at the property line. Obviously, they're exceeding that value, but as you can see, the light dissipates within that 20 feet outside of their property line. So all of the light that is shed basically within these numeric values is captured within the alleyway and or the right-of-way of 3rd Street or Main Street. So essentially the only light that is projected onto the property from a numeric value on this photometric plan is to the Mount Horeb Telephone Company building, because they're directly adjacent to one another.
Yeah, I understand. So that is the value at where it's at the ground, so there might be some indirect light bouncing off into Mr. Desonia. So that's my main concern. I'm hopeful that, I think, the village, if there's any concerns about that, it doesn't sound like it's going to be all that bright, so that is I just want to make sure that it's at the ground. Thanks for that explanation. The other item was, it wasn't entirely clear to me the depth of the sidewalk. I think easement, it sounds like, in the front, and then there's going to be some proposed seating. One of the recommendations in the planner's report is to show that outdoor seating on the site plan. I didn't know how deep that was going to be. I suspect that the entire sidewalk's going to be reconstructed. I just want to make sure there's enough space there, if there are going to be patio tables, for people to easily transit that area. Because we're maintaining, I think, the terrace and trees. So I just wasn't able to figure out exactly. I think that's the drip line on the roof there on the dotted line.
We brought up Wade Wise from Weiser Engineering, our civil, who's been sitting in the crowd here for a while, so he can answer these questions for you properly. How's that?
Right at the end.
Thank goodness I stayed. So, interesting enough, when we did this survey, we researched this pretty well. The existing sidewalk out there that exists today is on private property. And based on records, there is no easement that suggests that sidewalk is out of that space. It looks like it was a product of the inset parking that was part of the DOT project years ago. I mean, you can see it on the graphic, it makes sense. The sidewalk slid over, aligns with the other sidewalk, but no easement captured it. So in the certified survey map, in the background drawings that we have, the right thing to do in coordination with the village engineer is to create a public sidewalk easement for that egress movement, pedestrians, fronting both Main and 3rd Street. So the CSM is set up to capture that alignment, be consistent with what's out there today, to create that public easement, and beyond that lane, will be the area for seating and other amenity space. think both mean they're set up.
And then part of the, with the sidewalk too, is the sidewalk cafe permit, is opportunity for staff to verify everything meets our requirements there. Okay.
One of those requirements is that there's enough distance or width in the sidewalk for a pedestrian to walk around it, essentially. So Nick, is it 4 feet, 5 feet, something like that? One of those requirements.
Gene's the sidewalk.
There's enough
4 feet, I believe.
Gene. 5 feet. So there needs to be 5 feet of width within the sidewalk to still accommodate the pedestrian movement around the outdoor seating. Is that correct? 5 feet. Right. So there needs to be 5 feet of width. Yeah. She was just saying it has to be clear 5 feet of path for pedestrian movement with no obstruction. So that would limit the ability for outdoor seating with that provision in mind. Yeah, she was just saying it
Wide
has
enough
to
for
be
double
5
stories.
feet of path for
Good.
pedestrian movement.
Thank you
with no
for covering
obstruction.
it.
So that would limit
A couple items on the safety front. We talked about this a little bit, but I'm glad to see that there won't be vehicles exiting on 3rd Street. I think that is the #1 safety improvement of the entire change proposal. That would be a blind exit, left and right, and with kids coming down the hill on bikes. So I'm just glad to see that cars won't be exiting. They'll still be entering, but the vehicles and drivers are going to have a much better view, I think. I'd still like, so specific things I'd like to see, I still would like to see some type of painting there. You mentioned you'd be interested in that. At a minimum, some painting. I have seen other buildings do even raised crosswalks. I think that's the still would like to see something, I'm not sure, but at least some painting there. And then on the corner, it depends maybe a little bit on if it's a 2-way or a 1-way alley, but a mirror or some type of visual aid for safety for drivers to be able to navigate that safely. And in addition, if village staff agree, I think that could be painted as well at that alley. You mentioned it's not the only blind entrance and exit downtown. That's absolutely true. There are several others that I would like to see improved downtown. I can think of 3, just several were mentioned tonight in the comments, but I can think of several others where close calls have occurred. So I'd like to see those, not part of this project, but it's absolutely true that those exist downtown. So if we can't eliminate those, let's mitigate those to the extent that we can. At least make them as safe as we can. I'd like to see those not part of the project. So those would be my specific recommendations for those. I don't have the 2-way versus 1-way. I don't have a preference there. I'm going to rely on staff, and Mount Horeb Telephone Company seems like they have a strong preference. But I agree that ILEs are not supposed to be through streets, but it sounds like that's the way it's being used now without the building. So I don't know if it signs this as a through street. It's being used as a functional way for people to navigate downtown. So I don't want to limit that, but at the same time, through streets. It sounds like that's an issue that needs to be resolved. So I'm going to sort of rely on the public safety folks, village staff to go in there and limit that. As I think there's probably that's an issue that needs to be resolved. So I'm going to sort of rely on the public safety folks. That's it for me. As I think there's probably.
Jill says no. Destiny or Peggy?
The issue you guys are discussing, which is now a moot point, is because this area was never envisioned to have such a high density population on it, so we're going to have issues. The issue you guys are discussing, which is now a moot point, is because this area was never envisioned to have such a high density population on it, so we're going to have issues.
Alley as it exists now, I believe there's a power line back there. Are you going to bury that power line? Is that up to all those overhead power lines go underground at that point? Now, I believe there's a power line back there. Are you going to bury that power line? Is that up to all those
Yes, the answer to that is, the intent is to take those power lines, bury them across the back of the building. I don't know that they will be buried across the entire alley. That's not our decision, at least to get the rear side of this building is the strategy, yes. That they will be buried across the entire alley. That's not our decision, at least to get the rear side of this building is the strategy, yes.
One thing I want Planning Commission to take a look at too is the non-decorated garage door requirement. And then we waived that for Steve Brown. We had discussion about the quality and durability of the door versus that, but wanted to make sure that the body has discussed that, see if that is a sticking point or not. Durability of the door versus that, but wanted to make sure that thank you. Discuss that, see if that is a sticking point or not.
So I just have a process question. For the GDP, we were able to add a recommendation for the village to consider. Are we able to add something here? I just have a process question to be included.
Yes.
Okay. So I would like to just add that we have additional requests for some safety protocols to be worked on with the village and police specifically for the pedestrian crossings that we've talked about. You know, the blind turn on 2nd Street and safe pedestrian crossings specifically so that they're all working together. Talked about, you know, the blind turn. Does that make sense? 2nd Street and safe pedestrian crossings specifically so that they're all working together.
Just, I don't have the most recent adaptation after the talking with the telephone company. But we stepped back the side, the west elevation side, but it still has the facade on the front, almost like a false facade. That light colored. So going forward with our new plan zoning, we wanted that 3rd story step back on frontage of Main Street. I would like to maybe take a look at what it looks like with that gray, the gray section of the building step back to match the other lighter colored towards the corner, just to see if that helps with meeting our future zoning code. Other lighter colored. I wouldn't mind seeing the same thing happen on I know it's the other side of the building and it's not the Main Street facade, but have you thought about that back corner facing the one house, making that back corner have it step back just on that corner so that you're separating a little bit from the alley, just so that you're not looming over top of that one residential neighbor that's going to be affected the most by this project. Basically turning the balconies facing north. I know it's not the greatest for snow and hanging out there, but I think that would go a ways to making that neighbor not as loomed over, I guess, would be I don't know if at this point you've played around with that idea.
A couple of comments.
Just this corner right here.
I couldn't see where your finger pointed on the screen, but I think I know what you mean.
Basically, this corner here, this facade, where it's like literally where my hand is where the neighbor's house is.
Right. And so a couple of things we did. One is we opened up that whole corner and added that everything there from previous versions so that we could get more light through there.
Yeah.
4 stories long. This building is actually any taller than the existing structures that are there from Utah. And we could remove the corner wall that is the east facing wall yet further, but I want to be careful that we are, do have an existing code and a potential new code. And I want to make sure that we're not being governed on a code that doesn't exist yet, number one. Number two, if we want to change color, we're happy to change the color. We looked at that color on the front from being gray to tan previously as well. So we certainly could remove that east corner and get rid of the wall and open that up even further. It would be less obtrusive, I guess, would be the right way to say it. So we certainly could remove that east corner.
I guess I don't know what are those, I don't know what those windows are, if they're bedrooms or if they're the main living room.
No, yeah, I think we have to look at the floor plan. We've looked at the floor plan.
I didn't look at the floor plan that close.
No, we can look at it. Go to the third floor. Hurts me to see from the side.
So it's a living room and bedrooms. I didn't look at the floor plan that close.
Hurts me to see from the side.
So it's a living room and bedrooms. I don't know, maybe clear the transom style windows in that location, just so you're not staring out both that bedroom and that den down into their dining room. Something to think about. In that location, just so you're not staring out both that bedroom and that den down into their dining room. That's something to think about.
Yeah, so a couple of things. We're happy to consider it if it's a requirement or something, but just a code thing to take into consideration. We do have the light and ventilation code. Of course, we do the egress code. So from a better perspective, but I don't know we can pass with just a transit window. I don't believe we could. In fact, I know we could because it wouldn't be low enough for the floor. So I don't disagree necessarily, but in all respect for the house that's to the north of us there, I believe the only window that faces this building is the big dining room window. So I don't believe there's anything that would be viewing in, so to speak, or viewing out.
Okay, thanks.
Do you think a lighter color, you mentioned color change?
Yeah, we actually toyed with that originally. We had lighter color on one version, and we put it darker to help it disappear. We felt like the darker color made it disappear a little bit better. We're happy to. Honestly, you guys can tell how you like it. We'll make it that way.
I wonder if a lighter color just on that facade, northern facade, the north is dark and the storms hit it and everything, if a lighter color just would appear brighter. You know,
on the south facade there?
Yeah. On the north. Yeah.
North facade.
The north area we were just talking about, further the alley.
Yeah.
Not necessarily the whole corner. I don't know if that makes any sense.
Well, I'd love some direction on it from you, sir, if that'd be okay. We'd be happy to change it, because it's literally a paint color, that's not an issue.
And as you guys know, I'm not a design guru to tell colors what looks good and what's not on items, so definitely like to hear those with more experience thoughts on that.
Well, I'm very sorry, I had a little too close to my mouth. The top view that we're looking at right now, it has the white facade with a little false dormer, and then you go to a dark color for just right now that one little window. So maybe it just stays white and not chopped up.
Well, the intent, of course, was to keep it looking like separate buildings as we moved along the east facade as well.
Sure.
But, again, that is brick, right? We can change the brick color, the bottom of the brick, I believe the top of the siding, Steve, is that right? Or is it all brick?
What I like about the different, what I like a different color is that it just breaks up the vertical or the horizontal. I mean, it just kind of.
Agreed that the front and the middle are good, but I just wouldn't rest any strip to the far right that we're looking at is necessary. That was agreed that the front and the middle are good, but I just wouldn't rest any. It's preference, it's okay.
I kind of like it.
I have a quick question on the main corner canopy roof, is that to be cedar shakes? Is that supposed to look like the longhouse picture that those are gonna be cedar shakes on that roof?
Those are intended to be cedar shakes, yes.
Okay, that's what I figured, so I just had to ask.
They're hard to render.
Yeah, that's what I figured.
Since we're talking about facade, I do like your added false dormer on the right, and wondered if you would possibly repeat that anywhere on the front about facade.
We,
I do like your added right.
yeah, we have multiple versions of that on the front, and we really struggled hard to make it fit architecturally correct, and we had it too big, too small, it just didn't fit with the scale, so it's why we ended up choosing the trellis that you see up there as something to break up that front. We asked Blake sitting in the audience here, she probably got sick of me asking her to change that elevation. We asked Blake sitting in the audience here, she probably got sick of me asking her to change that elevation.
There, any additional recommended changes? Okay, so we've discussed a few items. If not, I think everything in Ben's memo. That would be kind of for us, most stuff is, that we haven't discussed would be at staff review level. Ben's memo. That would be kind of for us, most stuff is, that we haven't discussed would be at. So I guess, at this point, look for a motion to take action based on the waivers and then as we discussed, and Ben could give us some notes on anything that is changed from it. Because he types stuff up.
Yeah, I guess the one that I heard multiple people iterate was in relationship to safety improvements from the pedestrian crossing, and then some that exist beyond the site in relationship to the alleyway and Second Street. So I think the applicant could functionally add to the SIP some additional safety components to the pedestrian crossing in which their property is proposed to interact with, in terms of the blind alleyway turning left onto Second Street. There's more of a public safety component. So I think, long-winded way of saying, I think that would be the only additional recommendation beyond what's in my memo that multiple people. So I think if that's a long-winded way of saying, I think that would be.
That's what I have for my notes too. Okay. Anyone like to make a motion? That's what I have for my notes too. Okay. Anyone like to make a
I would
motion?
move to approve I would move to recommend approval of the SIP to village board contingent on approval of the GDP and in consideration of the numerous discussion points that are recorded in meetings.
A second. Does that give staff enough information for memo? Second. Okay. Any discussion? Give staff enough information for, hearing none, all those in favor, the recommendation, signify by saying aye. Aye. Hearing none. Okay, that carries forward. The recommendation, signify by saying aye. All right, so again, these recommendations will be reviewed by the village board in the future for items. All right, so again, these recommendations will be reviewed by the village board in the future. All right, moving on to committee reports. Planning Commission's report. Thank you for the people who stayed as well. Those watching the final video at the end of the night. Appreciate it. As I said, thank you for the governmental process. Has its pros and cons. It's slow, but efficient. As I said, we did have a lot of public engagement on items, and I expect continued public engagement on it, on all these projects. just because something may happen, or a planning commission member or board member may do something that, you don't agree with, doesn't mean they're not listening. Definitely, I've definitely been listening, I know others have here as well and stuff, and so it's part of the package. Just a quick update for you guys, village board, many hours ago, looked at the draft code as well. Nothing major. One thing they're going to do is they want more information kind of on the economic impact of the height off of Main Street. They like the idea of Main Street third story as well. And so I think they're pretty happy and educated and stuff. So there'll be some process in that, which I guess I'm probably going to slow down the process. So expect an update based on when village board is going to be able to review it, and then when we hold the public hearing for that. So we'll stay tuned for when the public hearing will be scheduled for the zoning code village review. That's all I really have for my report tonight, but I will put some notes in my village board report as well, so I encourage you guys to read that for any follow-up items that I didn't address tonight. Village planner report. I will put some notes in. There's none. Village inspector reports.
Don't get mad at me, folks, I forgot to put it in this month. So.
Village planner report. We'll get to next one. All right, last up, meeting adjournment.
Don't get mad at me, folks.
Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
All right, last up, meeting adjournment. We had Jill, and we'll give it at the second. All right, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, say no. And again, thank you, especially to staff. Thanks, Bart.
And John.
There he is. I didn't see John. He's hiding in there. Thanks, John. Thank you, especially to staff.